away the tail down the inside of Coates. Parker gets too heavily involved. And that's Whitehead and Coates.
Good evening, everybody. It's Tuesday evening, and that of course means it's time for the virtual reality racing club touring car competition, and my second event of the season. But for everybody else, it's the fifth. I had to miss some pre-season ones. Richard John Neal here with you, fresh from Donington Park at the weekend, where we had the British Touring Car Championship. Reeve Taylor is, as you can see, his mugshots there, but he's not with us yet, but I'm sure he'll have had his BMW fixed and he will be with us forthwith, but quite happy to carry on. Clerk of the course is Ian Danaher. Clerking is top topic for us this week, and our broadcast guru is Steve Allen. So thank you, Steve, and thank you to Ian Danaher. Lots of penalties last week, which you'll see as we go into the results. Race 1 was actually won by Andy Dorman and Ollie Gibson winning race 3. And of course, last week we were round 4, Nurburgring, having completed Pascani, Bathurst and Assen. Watkins Glen in America, quite an evocative name for me, that one being one of the older enthusiasts, because it's where we used to have the US Grand Prix originally in the proper sort of 3 litre days. So a great track. So too is Interlagos next week on the 28th of April. Once we get into May, it's Mugello in Italy, and Ricardo Tormo in Spain. I think last week I said Paul Ricardo, so I apologise if I threw anyone out by saying that one. And as you can see from the little typo or little typing on the graphic, that one can't be dropped. So anyone in with a real shout will have to be there at the last round. As ever, a little format check on the bottom of that slide, which is available on social media. If you're new to VRRC and want to find out a little bit more, maybe check into any of the club's accounts on Facebook or Instagram. I'm not sure if they've got a TikTok account yet, but anyway, you know the score for getting into those. Here's the championship table following last week. Jack Smith managing to eke a little bit more of a lead out with an overall win, 111 points and drive for the round last time out. Gabe Norse with an 84 and maintained second position, extending I think the lead a wee bit over Oliver Gibson, who is in third, Andy Dorman fourth from Andy Carroll and Craig Curtis. Then it's Scott Bugner and Alex Forster. Ollie Atkins in ninth, and Thomas Potter completing the top 10. The ones with extra work to do, really, because remember it's the top 10 in the series that get reversed for race 1 are the drivers outside of the top 10. So 11th place we've got Kieran Haynes, Chris Blakey, Christian Gillian, Sam Walton and Kenny Press. Daniel Heaps is 16th from Rich Hayden and Paul Laramie. Lee Piercy 19th from Cat Potter in 20th. So right the way down to the top 20, we've got some really good names who are race winners and regular, often regular podium securers as well. So we'll be looking for some of those guys or girls indeed, to make a little bit of progress up the order. Let's go and have a look at the next graphic, which I think will take us outside the top 20. Our 21st, Caden Cook from Jack Dickerson. Robert Shepherd is next up from Callum Enstone, and John Jones will be hopefully. I can't remember, is John poorly? I seem to remember Becky saying that John was poorly. Didn't make a note of that last week, but if he is, we wish him a swift recovery and hope the Shadow Racing Line car will be back online with us very, very soon. So that's a rundown of the championship table. We always, of course, give you a little summary as to what happened last week in terms of our overall podium from the 3 races that we had. And before we get to that, it's team standings. I'm forgetting the order. DK Power Racing, top of the stack with a decent lead, you've got to say, over Andy Carroll and Scott Bugner for Team Carbike. Swift Cooper with a great little pairing there. Kieran Haynes and Ollie Atkins are third from High Road Motorsport. Craig Curtis and Kenny Press. Shake and Bake, which is just Gabe North on his Todd at the moment, and a sterling effort from Gabe in 5th from the Flying Pots. Then Automac, Eden Garage Motorsport, VRRC SRT, and Speed and Power, Alex Forster. More about Alex anon, because he was racing in the real world on Saturday. And that's our top 10 team standings, which adds a useful and a part of interest to our proceedings here on VRRC. So this is where I got ahead of myself, and we have a quick look. As you can see, 2 team cars, 1 and 2 last week. Jack Smith and Ollie Gibson taking 1 and 2. Andy Dorman, who took the race 1 win after the judicials, took 3rd place, takes the bronze medal, and driver of the round was Jack Smith. So that's the way the top 3 worked out for last week. Now, obviously, looking forward to the World Endurance League, which is coming up in a few weeks' time, starting on the 2nd of June. Get your entries in now. We're hoping that we might have some more new drivers coming in as well. Rich tells us that the kit is absolutely amazing. I think those drivers that have used the new cars have been thoroughly enjoying it. 8 rounds again, all of the venues that you would expect to see. Differing race formats, including one race you can see round 4, Nurburgring GP double points. And also the Le Mans round 8. Round 1, as you can see, we'll have qualifying, championship positions reversed, top 10 for round 2 onwards, and then race 2 finishing order with no reverse. So a good format, rewarding those that put the effort in. And what we're kind of hoping now is that some of the drivers outside the top 10 will start to work their way into the reverse segments. And get some coverage that way. But a really good championship in the offing for that one, and we hope that you can join us. And don't forget to spread the word as well on your own social media. More the merrier on that one. And I haven't answered Rich Hayden yet, but maybe I'll do it officially here by saying that I do hope to be joining you on the commentary for those rounds, certainly as many of them as I can do. So really excited about that and looking forward to it. World Endurance League starting on 2nd of June. Get your entries in now. So bringing us back to the present day, and we're at Watkins Glen. As I said, it's a different animal really to Nurburgring, where we were last week, and should be an exciting circuit. It's one that has plenty of twists and turns, plenty of undulations, as we're about to see from the flying lap, which is once again being provided by Jack Smith. So here we go, we're coming along the straight down towards the right-hander at turn 1. And again, we'll see, this is quite a physical circuit. We start to go a little bit downhill after the right-hander, and then go up towards the S's, which, if you read the books, if you read the technical manual, is a very technical part of the circuit. Right through 2, left through turn 3, right again through turn 4, and then the circuit opens up and we're heading down towards another very technical part, which is the bus stop. And you can see that Jack is leading us there, grabs a bit of curbs. Again, the technical manuals will tell, some will tell you that the curbs are okay, some will tell you that they can throw you off kilter, and I'm guessing all the guys that have done practice have worked out what's for them. Now we're going round the right-hander at turn 5. You saw the little breakaway there for the short circuit, but we're going to carry on round, heading into the boot section of the circuit. Turn 6 is a nice tight left-hander called Laces. Then we go straight again, a little bit more downhill, coming up to turn 7, which is the toe of the boot, very much like Island Bend and Alton Park from the look of it. I've never actually been to Watkins Glen, but seen it many times. So out of 7, and having had Laces and toe, where are we heading now? We're heading down to turn 8, which is another right-hander, and that is heel. Turning in now and back on the throttle, and now going into turns 9 and 10. We'll deal with turn 9, little short straightaway here down into turn 10, which is the anti-penultimate corner on the lap. We feed through there. And then Jack setting us up for the final turn, turn 11, the right-hander, which brings us back under the gantry and onto the start-finish straight. And we're looking around about 154, 155, something like that for the target times Jack Smith doing. 154.76 on Jack Smith's hot lap. So a good lap from Jack. Let's see what he can do in terms of our racing this evening. Reeve Taylor is with us. I'm delighted that he is here. And I wasn't too stressed before you getting here this evening, fella. But welcome back.
Thank you very much. There was a bit of antics in getting here, unfortunately, this evening, but not car-related, I'm pleased to report. Well, it was traffic-related instead. Apologies for the anticipation there. I was stuck in traffic inside a tunnel. Those who know Liverpool well will know that there's 2 tunnels. If you're stuck in there, you've got no signal, nothing you can do.
Well, no apology needed, because we know that if you could get here, you will. You even dropped in and said a quick hello to us last week, which we greatly appreciated as well. And thanks again to Becky for standing in last week. Yeah. But for me, it's been ages, Reeve. I'm delighted that we get the chance to work together again.
Absolutely, yeah. I think the commentary gods have decided otherwise and decided that we shouldn't over the past couple of weeks. But likewise, Richard, absolute pleasure to be back in the comments box with you over what is a season that I've been really enthusiastic about. I'm really keen on these old classic touring cars and some fabulous circuits as well. So looking forward to it. Yeah,
it's a really good mix, isn't it? And excited for this evening as we now enter the second half of the season. Now, assuming we've got everybody, we're going to see, I think Thomas Potter gets the front row here, doesn't he? Because he is 10th in the championship. One of the drivers one of many drivers, I hasten to add, who was subject to judicials last week. He's picked up a bit of ballast as the teapot. I think he has 16 kg now, Thomas Potter. But that probably won't deter him very much. He's already had 2 race wins in the series, not ones that I've worked on. He had race 2 at Bathurst and also race 1 at Pascani. I think you did Pascani, didn't you? Or was it?
I did indeed, yes.
Yeah. I have listened to some of the rounds, so and enjoyed them as well. I think Jack did the first one. Jack Oliphant did the first one, but there's the grid. Couple of gaps on the grid, as you can see, which is a little bit of a pity. But well done to those that have had penalties and come in. We appreciate that sporting nature. And Ian Danaher is our clerk of the course, a real-world clerk, which adds, for my money, a huge amount of credence to the decisions that are made. So thank you for Ian to doing that. And, it's getting our drivers ready. Some of our drivers are already real-world drivers, but it gets them even more prepared for the real-world queue outside the clerk of the course's office.
Not long to go then until lights out, as you say, Richard. I'm really curious to see what the likes of the Teapot can do. It's been a few seasons since I've commentated the VRRC, and he seems to have come on leaps and bounds since I last was involved and looking over his racing career. So interested to see what he can do, as well as a few of our new faces. They've really impressed me as well. Should be a good one.
I think so. We've got about 30 seconds before lights out. It was interesting, those of you watching the British Touring Car Championship coverage at the weekend will notice that we didn't go to the traditional lights out. We went to the countdown, as we have here with the gantry, and that was because the Formula 4, the F4 drivers or F4 organisers decided they wanted the FIA spec starting sequence, which is what we've got now, as if by magic. So this is coming up a little bit more predictable than the lights out one that we get normally in club racing, and certainly a lot more professional. But we're getting ready for it to go. It's Potter and Atkins on the front row of the grid. Let's see how they go as they head down towards the right-hander at turn 1. Superb start by Thomas Potter, gets away very well indeed by Ollie Atkins. Yeah, that's like the proverbial off the shovel, isn't it, there for Thomas Potter. Atkins next up, Scott Bugner, expecting big things of Scott this evening from there. Alex Forster is 4th. Craig Curtis actually passes Alex Forster and makes his way through. We're on board with Oliver Gibson, who is 2nd in the championship. Good start there, Reeve.
Yeah, absolutely. Teapot getting away there. The rear-wheel drive nature of the BMW is just so electric off the lights compared to the A4, which can struggle a little bit, but obviously we do know it has some more stability benefits later on in the race. Gibson versus Smith, teammates now in the midfield. They're going to need to work together quite well here to make sure that they go down the inside, they make those overtakes, stick without compromising each other. I think they can pull it off. They're 2 very, very experienced drivers at this point.
They are indeed. Chris Baker's got up into the top 10 from outside of the reverse grid section, so that we'll need to keep an eye on. He's in the black and yellow car coming around the turn there. But it's Ollie Atkins now that has taken over at the front. So let's see whether Ollie can add another VRRC win to his canon. Obviously had one in the Formula Ford series, which we had before. And very quick little peddler is Ollie. He wants to stay in the top 10 so that he can stay in the reverse section and be at the front. It is, Reeve, with this format now, very difficult, isn't it, to get into the top 10 of the championship, particularly if we're only reversing the top 10. So there's a huge amount of work to do to get into that reverse bit.
Yeah, there's definitely your pros and cons of the different formats that we run. What I do like about this season in particular is if we go straight into the racing action, 3 races back to back, plenty of opportunities for overtakes for all the drivers. So even if it can be a little bit tricky to say halfway through the season work back up towards that top 10, there's still plenty of opportunities for fun throughout an hour's worth of racing in the evening.
There are, you're absolutely right. Well, we're on board with Jack Smith, looking back at Gabe Norse. These two, this is the championship battle, so this is interesting between these two. Gabe Norse, I was looking through the stats of the Formula Ford Championship, and after writing his name down incorrectly, and he'll know why, because I knew another Norse back in the day, and correcting it just reminded me about how quick he was on his debut with VRRC in that championship. And this is what we wanted to see. We wanted to see him and Jack and the others, Ollie Gibson and the like, all going wheel to wheel, and it's added another star name to the rosters that we've got there. There is Jack busy chasing Ollie, with Gabe Norse back in the middle as well. Ollie Atkins still up front, flying teapot in P2. Scott Bugner is third, with Craig Curtis in 4th place. Scott Bugner has a drop round from Pascani, didn't arrive at Pascani, but has been on the podium as we expected. Only had 2 third places so far, so whether we'll see Scott Bugner make it onto the top step of the podium in this one, as he regularly does. He normally has a win, if not more, in each of the series. We'll see how that pans out for him.
We certainly will. Already approaching a quarter race distance in this one. 20 minutes. I think it's a good race length that we do run. It's not too short where it's like a traditional karting sprint, but it's not quite long enough to be a full endurance stint either. So drivers have to go pretty much wall-to-wall action for 20 or so minutes. The real test of them as we're on board with Dorman here. He's trying to reel in the BMWs up in front here. You can see the grip level's still looking very strong indeed, and Dorman's actually doing a really good job of keeping up with the 2 championship protagonists now. Has to look around the outside of Norse, go for the inside left-hander there, has to back out of it though, nowhere for his A4 to fit. I should say, I keep calling them an Audi. It's technically not an Audi according to the game, but we all know what it is, don't we, folks?
Yeah.
As we head back onto the straight now, Scott Bugner actually sets the fastest lap of this race this time around, as we get a great outside shot now. What will Andy Dorman do? Into the right hand, there we go, and there is the aforementioned Scott Bugner there. But Jack Smith now alongside Oliver Gibson. It's actually Gibson, the leading DK power car, while Jack Smith has all the work to do against Alex Forster. Forster had a bit of a mixed run so far this season, but now looks to be pretty handy indeed. Is up into P7, gets clear of Jack Smith. That's going to be a great confidence boost, isn't it, to be battling with the championship protagonists?
It will, and Gabe Norse read that absolutely superbly. We'd expect nothing less as he managed to nip through. Alex Forster, by the way, had his Legends Cars debut. He's Alex, a winner previously in our championship in the touring car head-to-head at Ricardo Tormo, which is our last round later on in the campaign, round 8. So he is a race winner with VRRC, but had his real-world Legends Cars debut. He was with us in the Scottish official Legends Cars Championship, and went out in Daniel Pooley's Legends car at the weekend, on touring car weekend, and acquitted himself really well. It was lovely to see him and his dad, and great to see him having a proper real-world Legends Cars debut, and he did good, and I think this is buoying him up. Not to say he wasn't doing well in the other racing that he's been doing. Is it an MG? I think he's been pedalling, but good to actually see him. I don't always get to see our drivers on track, but that was great to see as we watch Craig Curtis, Andy Carroll, Oliver Gibson comes into shot as well. Ollie Atkins, 2.5 seconds. This is the tactic, isn't it, Reed, for Ollie Atkins? Get your head down, son. Get away from P2, which is Scott Bugner now.
Yeah, we saw this work at Pascani as well. Oh dear, as Curtis is clipped from behind there, does very well to keep hold of it. Good old front wheel drive taxis, just plant the foot in it to get the car to correct itself. He's done very well as Craig Curtis to keep that car pointing in the right direction. So top work there. Meanwhile, just further behind, the Norse versus Smith battle rages on. This time I think they want vengeance against Alex Forster. Side by side goes the BMW. The A4, it seems, just about has the legs in a straight line, but down the inside goes the white and red E36, and it's Gabriel Norse up into P6.
Yeah, doing good stuff at the moment. It's going to have to work hard to close up on Oliver Gibson in P5 at the moment. I was talking to Rich Hayden this morning. He was saying that, yeah, the Audis are probably going to have the legs around this track. Certainly that's what they've been finding out from testing. Atkins, Bugner, Potter, Curtis, Gibson, Norse. I wonder if we're going to see any further changes at the sharp end of things as Norse bounces over the curbs. Doesn't seem to dishevel his racing line too much at all, or lose too much momentum. I think that's because Jack Smith's pretty much got his mirrors full as well. Jack just trying to do his, I was going to say robotic, but his metronome performance of quali lap, quali lap, quali lap. And that always seems to work for him. But will he be frustrated that he's got the man second in the championship in front of him? Possibly not. I know Jack always wants to win, but tactically, in terms of championship position, we're in the second half of the season. All he's got to do in any of these races, if he can't win, is keep that man in his sights, and he won't lose too many points.
No, absolutely. I think he's level-headed enough to know that. You're quite right there, Rich. And outside of that, we were having a great chat with him after Pascani. And Jack's a proper racer, you know. He'll be quite content, I think, with losing to Gabriel as long as he has a great race. That was, I think, the big takeaway after we had that photo finish at Pascani, is that Jack just wants to have some fun out there on track. He's already got some trophies, and I think he's quite pleased to have some fresh blood to go racing against, as we see Dorman down the inside of Forster there. Kieran Haynes is on the scene as well, fancies his chances of getting up into P9, tries to have a look around the outside there, nothing he can do, and just lays in waiting for the time being, while Ollie Atkins leading the charge decides, yeah, I could rest at the front end of this race, but in fact I'll set the new fastest lap and make that gap 3.2 seconds.
Yeah, good on Ollie. Really exciting to have so many new good young drivers in the championship. Ollie Atkins, very much one of those drivers, came in with the Formula 4 Championship. For those of you who perhaps weren't around for that, I think you can still watch them on YouTube. Of course you can still watch them on YouTube if you want to go back and have a look at many of the youngsters that came in, and we had a plethora of new drivers coming into that championship. But yeah, you rightly picked out Kieran Haynes, who's in 10th place, and I was making the noise about Chris Blakey getting into the top 10. So moving into the reverse grid zone, I remember it's the top 10 reverse for race 2. So at the moment, Kieran Haynes has got ahead of Chris Blakey. Chris Blakey running in 11th, as you can see, or could see from the timing tower. And that's absolutely crucial, because that's going to promote him up to the front of the grid at the moment to the front of the grid for race 2, if he can stay there or make a little bit of progress. He'll be quite happy to be further back on the grid as long as he's in the top 10. So the more progress he makes, the more points he'll get. But Kieran Haynes at the moment, that's a key thing at the moment. With Chris Blakey in 11th, they'll probably be hoping for some drivers to fall off at the front, but all things looking pretty calm at the minute.
Yeah, absolutely. Interesting to see that Potter seems to have found a little bit of form once again. He's closing back up to Scott Bugner within half a second now trying to find a way past. This could be a difference in maybe car setup or how he's looked after the tyres in this race. Maybe Thomas was thinking about the long run and thinking about looking after the rubber for just a little bit later on. Either way, good to see that he hasn't been disheartened by what probably wasn't his favourite race start of all time, while Norse is down in P6, putting pressure on Oliver Gibson now. And this is going to be a really great day for Oliver Gibson as well. He might be considered, you know, the second DK power driver out of the two, given his points tally in this championship, but he's showing he's absolutely up there and ready for a fight, and could be obviously fighting for the championship still in this one. We might be approaching the second half of the season now, but we still have plenty of races to go, so still plenty of points on offer, as his teammate Jack Smith does post a 154.5. So I think your prediction of times that we've got here, we're pretty much spot on after that flying lap.
Well, I was aided and abetted, of course, by the hot lap, which is always a huge help, isn't it? Kieran Haynes was momentarily showing in 9th. That means he's dicing really hard with Alex Forster at the moment. So trying to just, two things there. One, it's more points if Haynes can get into 9th place, but also it gives him a little bit of leeway in terms of that top 10 to, you know, to essentially maybe suffer a drop or just go back a little bit, and he'll still be in the top 10. Now Chris Blakey's up in the top. Who have we lost? Did you spot that, Reeve? I was looking at paperwork, but no, sorry, who was that?
Craig Curtis, it looks like, has had a bit of an issue.
Thank you for that. Okay, that's a shame for Craig. Always enjoy a chat with Craig, but it's got Blakey and Haynes now into the top 10, and Christian Gillian will be the next driver to try and get in with Paul Laramie, and all those guys again outside the top 10 in the championship standing. So we'll be keen to get into the reverse grid section.
I think we saw a bit of an E36
that's not what he wants. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, an old BMW 3 Series doing typical BMW 3 Series things there, I think, in the back end. Just escaping away from you and finding a barrier, unfortunately. But it didn't look like it was going to be a major one, so hopefully he's able to get back up to speed and still enjoy the final 8 minutes of this one, as Gabriel Norse also doing a similar thing over the curbs there. A little bit of Oppo lock to correct it, and is still on fine form and closing down Oliver Gibson. That's the type of racing we like to see, isn't it? Good old touring car stuff if the car's sliding across the circuit.
It's all really good stuff from these guys, and really paced and measured at the moment, and hopefully not the curse that we're giving these drivers. To be honest, I feel I can say it because of the quality of people we've got in the top 10 of this championship at the moment. And as I say, Ollie Atkins doing a super job out front. Scott Bugner has responded to Thomas Potter, has got the gap out to 1.5 seconds. So Thomas might have to, and indeed is starting to look in his mirrors and see Gabe Norse and Oliver Gibson. Gibson most immediate in his rear view mirror, and that's what we're looking at now, courtesy of our race director Steve, with Jack Smith back in 6th place, Andy Dorman. What Jack Smith will know, of course, is that if it finishes like this, he'll be closer to the front than Gabe Norse and Ollie Gibson in race 2, and presumably will have learnt a little bit about the setup, although he always tells me he tends not to change setup, but he might find something that he's learned here and turn that around. So who have we got now? Just checking in at the bottom end. Christian Gillian 10th, so he's on provisional pole for race 2. Kieran Haynes is in the shout for P2 for our reverse grid race. And Kieran, another VRRC winner. Craig Curtis busy trying to close up as well, so Craig didn't lose too much in terms of time.
No, he certainly didn't, and it'll be a really interesting race to see the likes of Haynes and Gillian at the top end of things for the start of race 2, because on their day they certainly do have the pace. I think back to Bathurst where Christian Gillian really did impress. Unfortunately, some of his races didn't quite end the way that perhaps he would have wanted, but maybe a chance for redemption here at Watkins Glen. Oliver Gibson is the car that we're on board with now, looking over the rear wing. Great shot here from 3 Series to 3 Series, as Gabriel Norse is the car behind. These three have been a familiar trio over the past number of laps, and I do think this could continue on into the rest of the racing this evening, which I would certainly welcome. They seem to know each other well, certainly seem to know how to battle each other well, and they're also going to bring in Thomas Potter to make it a quartet as well. As we head down the start-finish straight, defensive moves there to try and break the toe. Around the outside has to go Oliver Gibson, but well defended and well took back by Thomas Potter there, who still fights on for this podium.
Here comes Gabe Norse down the inside, and Ollie Gibson, well, in having a go at Potter, he had to put the position on the line there to try and have a go at the youngster who made his debut in the VRRC Fiesta Junior Championship at the weekend. I haven't seen any of the footage. I'll be honest, I don't get time to watch all these live streams, but we'll catch up in the real world. I think I'm working on a couple of events for the club later on in the season, but it was Dara McInerney, wasn't it? They got 3 wins in the. I did look at the results on TSF. Dara McInerney, 3 wins out of 3 in Fiesta Junior. How impressive was that? I can't recall a driver doing that for a long time. But now Gabe Norse is going to go through. He's looking tasty here on the outside line. We've got the 2 brothers, the 2 teammates right behind as well. And Oliver Gibson senses here that he's got the chance to maybe get the place or maybe 2 back. But Norse has other ideas, tees up the inside, and Thomas Potter's going to have to work very, very hard indeed. No, he can't do it. And Norse gets the position up onto the podium.
Does indeed. I think the fear here for Thomas Potter fans is that, if anything, Norse might act a bit like Moses parting the seas here and just make a bit of a gap for another BMW to work its way on through. And is that going to happen? We're going to have to wait and see. Gibson has been set on the inside there for a little while, has to settle back into P5 for the time being. Potter is keeping a very level head here and not cracking under pressure, so he's doing a pretty good job, all things considered. Gabriel Norse is effectively now set in P3. I think Thomas Potter's best foot forward now is to effectively forget about Gabriel for the time being and just focus on keeping the DK power boys behind for as long as he can, because they are on fine form now. It's almost as if they found an extra setting on their car, turned it up to 11 a bit, as there we go, Gibson and Potter side by side. A nose out in front for Oliver. Gibson has the inside of the right-hander at the start of the lap as well, and there we go, Oliver Gibson takes position, takes P4, and if he's not careful as Thomas Potter, Jack Smith might fancy his chances as well.
Ran a little bit too far there, didn't he, Ollie Gibson?
Yes.
And it won't be track limits because there was nothing gained, no advantage gained there. The only advantage was Thomas Potter, who kept it very, very strictly on the racing line and gets the position back. But this is bringing Jack Smith into it. While these guys are messing around with each other, of course, it's allowing Gabe Norse to try and close down on Scott Bugner. He's only 1.89 seconds down. So Norse here on for some very valuable points as Potter defends again. And he's got, as I say, the two brothers right with him. But when you consider Potter here carrying an awful lot of ballast as well, he's doing a super job of defending here.
Yeah, that is a fantastic point there that I failed to mention so far. The ballast that he is carrying after some, I think it was some shoes reviews, wasn't it, after the previous round, and that he's not letting that phase him at all. He's in P4 for the time being. Smith and Gibson just behind, maybe also carrying some ballast given their success this season, but not quite as much as what the black and green car will be carrying. As Gibson just runs a little bit wide there, the front end of the car giving up. That throws him onto the grass and very nearly sees him spinning in the wrong direction. So through goes Dorman. Gibson into 7th and giving up this battle, but there we go. Thomas Potter not giving up his battle, and Oliver Gibson's teammate Jack Smith now in reserve and now fighting for that P4. Does get P4 for the time being, but if we've seen anything so far, it's that Thomas Potter is going to not give up this one.
No, he's doing the job. I was at a Q&A at the weekend for some guests, and somebody said, you know what, apart from having lots of money, what's the key thing to going? What's the key thing to going motor racing? And one of the things I said was having a good, nice personality to do with the public and sponsors and things like that, but also resilience. I think resilience is key, and Thomas is showing that here. You know, he's taken his medicine really well by my book here. You know, he's got the ballast and he's racing really hard. Andy Dorman's got past him. Dorman, for me, I don't like using the term dark horse for the championship, but you know, he's always there or thereabouts. And you know, last week scored really well. He was third overall on the points last week. He's always quick in VRRC championships, but he almost looks a shade quicker than perhaps we're used to here, particularly. And this is a stronger field as well. That he's matched everything. He's upped his game to match everybody else.
Yeah, really impressive stuff, as you say. Not a headline from this race so far, but certainly one that we cannot ignore at this point. Dorman looking composed and looks to have just looked after the car really well, does everything that he's needed to do in this race and will be rewarded with a very good haul of points as a result. Oliver Gibson back on the scene now, has brought himself back up to pace after his earlier instance. Only 90 seconds left in this one, and I think this fight could go on for at least another hour if they had the fuel to do it. But it has been a brilliant this entertainment over the past few laps of the final stages of this race, that this now quartet certainly hasn't let up one moment. I think we're going to be in for a real treat over the next couple of races, and it's a shame that we only do a podium interview in this series, because I'd love to hear what these guys have to make of their racing as well.
Well, they'll have to do the business in race 2, and then they'll get their chance to talk us through what's going on. But yeah, Ollie Atkins is going to, barring any big problems, we have to say that, fingers crossed and all that behind the back, he is in the lead going for his first touring car win with VRRC. So really good stuff from Ollie. Scott Bugner 6 seconds away, and Gabe Norse has dropped off a little bit as well. Maybe tyres, as you say, but a good solid podium from those three drivers. Andy Dorman in 4th, ahead of Jack Smith, Thomas Potter and Oliver Gibson. So good stuff from Andy Dorman, P4 in the championship.
Exactly, and now we see Smith versus Dorman, followed by Potter versus Gibson. They come in twos, as it turns out, and it's going to be BMW on Audi, followed by BMW on a BMW. Potter down the inside there, very brave move at a part of the track where it actually narrows somewhat as you go through the bridge section, or what looks to be like a bridge section with the elevation changes there. There goes Smith into P5, has a look at the outside on Andy Dorman, but decides better of it for the time being. Is he going to go for a move down the right-hander this time around, though? Well defended by Andy Dorman. Once again, likewise for Potter, just in the background there as well, as the timer hits 0.
Yeah, so very nearly time for our first podium interviews of the evening. Still looking at Ollie Gibson and Thomas Potter. Good race by both of these long-term rivals in VRRC, and they've given us some good entertainment over the first 20 minutes of this. Here comes Gibson, goes for the lunge. The gap wasn't quite there, but he closes up. Is he going to be able to do anything through the last few corners? Ollie Atkins still out front, and the gap's come down a little bit. He's maybe afforded himself the luxury of easing off. It was 6 seconds, now down to 5.5, but that is no worry for Ollie Atkins as we look at the battling pair of Andy Dorman chasing Jack Smith. So Dorman now behind Jack Smith. Gabe Norse is 2 seconds up the road, and they're now very much in the final stages of this one. Ollie Atkins is going to grab his first touring car win here. Nice bit of history being made for VRRC. Well done, Ollie Atkins. We'll take the checkered flag and the win. Super job for him. He actually got the gap out a little bit further over the last few corners. Scott Bugler coming home in second position from Gabe Norse. That completes our podium. And then it was Jack Smith in fourth place from Andy Dorman. Thomas Potter is next up. Quick refresh of the iPad. Oliver Gibson and Kieran Haynes from Alex Forster. Christian Gillian sticks with that 10th place. That's going to be key for race 2. Andy Carroll, 11th, will be a little bit frustrated to miss out on the reverse grid race 2. And that's our last reverse grid chance of the evening, of course, because top scorers start at the front for race 3. Paul Laramie, 12th from Kenny Press and Chris Blakey. Craig Curtis, Jack Dickerson, Caden Cook, Cat Potter, Robert Shepherd, Rich Hayden and Lee Piercy. Rich and Lee a little bit off form in this one. We'll complete the finishes and we'll have some podium interviews in just a moment.
And there we are then, great little message from the Formula 4 Championship there. Does look like a lot of fun. I've said that every time I've seen that ad so far. I do mean to take a bit more of a read into it. But now is a chance to hear from some of our drivers who scored on the podium after race 1 here at Watkins Glen. And I'm really eager to hear what they have to say. And once again, I'm joined by Mr. Gabriel Norse. How are you doing this evening? Congratulations on your first podium of the evening.
Yeah, I'm alright, thanks. Yeah, it was quite a good first race, that.
Yeah, certainly a good way to kick off your evening. Now, so far when we've interviewed you, we're kind of a mixed bag on tracks. You know, we had Bathurst, not a massive fan, and then Pascani. Everyone seemed to have a really good time out there. What do you make of Watkins Glen so far?
I'm not usually a huge fan of it, but I think this track mod is definitely a lot better than some of the other ones that I've tried, and I actually have quite enjoyed it tonight. So yeah, it's been good.
Very nice. I mean, you can see why you've enjoyed it. You've already jumped on the podium this evening. Would you like to talk us through your race then? Because towards the end, it looked like a little bit of plain sailing, but obviously we saw through the mid part of the action, you did have some great battles, didn't you?
Yeah, I mean, at the start, I made quite a slow start and was just kind of hanging around like P9, P10. But yeah, I mean, throughout the race, I managed to just pick off a few people, and I mean, towards the end, I got past Thomas, and I just saw that he was backing everyone up, which was very helpful for my race.
It certainly was, but certainly a lot of your hard work went into that as well. And looking at more of a championship perspective as well, this is important in the sense that you've gained a few points on some of your rivals there. Do you think that this is something you can carry on throughout the rest of the evening?
Yeah, I mean, I felt as though I had more pace than Jack did throughout that first race, so hopefully I'm able to carry that on until the next race. But I mean, we'll have to see if he magically gains a few tenths.
We certainly will, because Jack Smith is certainly a formidable opponent, but you do also have the reverse grid action to contend with as well. So you're going to have to maybe change your strategy, change your thinking for that to try and work up your way through the order, or you're just going to try and play it like race 1 once again.
I think I'll just have to play it like race 1 again, because it worked for me in that race, and so hopefully it will just work again.
It certainly will, and I know I made jokes about it last time I commentated, and then it happened to me in real life, but hopefully it works again. Is something you could say about your lovely BMW 3 Series you got on screen, because I've fallen out with them recently, given I missed the Nurburgring round after it decided to break, but hopefully yours is nice and reliable for the rest of the evening for you, Gabriel. Congratulations on a P3, and hopefully we get another opportunity to chat to you again this evening.
Thank you.
So moving on then, we move to our second podium interview of the evening, and it is a Mr. Scott Buckner. How are you doing, Scott? Lovely to chat with you once again.
I'm not too bad. How are you?
I am very good, thank you very much. Only got here in just about the nick of time, so I left Mr. Richard John Neal to fend for himself at the very start of the stream. So apologies for that, but glad to have made it back for the racing action at least. And first podium of the evening. Are we going to expect a few more from you, Scott?
I mean, I wasn't expecting one, because I hadn't done any practice at all. I literally just turned up at 5:30 and thought, oh, we'll do a few laps. So yeah, car feels really good round here actually. The pace was there for once. So yeah, just to try and get past Thomas, because I knew he was backing some people up, so I thought I can get past as quick as I can. But Ollie had driven really well and got away and made a break. So a nice chilled second position.
Yeah, absolutely. It almost looked like a bit of a lonely race at some point after you did work your way through the field. Sometimes when you're in those positions, are you starting to maybe, does your mind begin to drift about kind of race 2, or maybe what you're having for dinner? What are you kind of thinking as a racing driver at that point?
To be honest, not a lot. I just kept going around and just looking at the lap times that everyone was getting. And I was like, oh, well, I'm there or thereabouts. And I put in another lap time. And I was like, oh, okay, I've gone 2 tenths quicker. And that's all it is, really. It's just trying to get into a bit of a rhythm and not to throw it off. It's quite easy when you're on your own to just sort of your mind will sort of drift off somewhere, and you're like, oh, I should have braked there, and then you go off. So yeah, no, it's nice. I'm hoping that obviously race 2 and 3. I always say I'm going to get my elbows out, and then when I do, I end up getting punted off. So I'm not going to say that. I'm going to just say that hopefully we can get another 2 podiums. That'd be lovely.
Yeah, that would be absolutely fantastic. You mentioned that maybe you've not got much practice in for this race this evening. Have you got other experience of Watkins Glen, other fun memories perhaps in the past?
The last time I raced it, I can't remember what car it was in. I think it was in GTs, and I got squeezed against the pit. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, GT4. I think I did all right in that. I can't remember exactly, but I know.
2 seconds, Scott. Sorry to buzz in.
There you go.
2 second places, mate.
There you go. So that made that 3 seconds now. So hopefully we can go one better this time and get a win. But yeah, no, it's quite a nice track. It's got a nice flow to it. I quite enjoy it, and the Audi feels quite good here actually.
Yeah, it seems to have the upper hand in terms of that straight line grunt, and its front wheel drive nature certainly doesn't seem to let it down much other than those race starts. We've certainly seen a few BMWs tripping themselves up with a bit of oversteer moments, and the Audi seem to be quite an enjoyable thing to drive, even as much as it pains me to say it. Congratulations on a P2, Scott. Hopefully we get an opportunity to chat to you once again this evening.
Fingers crossed. Thank you.
Always good to hear from our drivers, and nice to have a mixed podium. And as we said, it's the Audi that seems to be on top, and it certainly is an Audi that's on top with Ollie Atkins. Congratulations, Ollie, on your maiden touring car win this season for us.
Thank you very much. I mean, it was kind of a bit of a lonely race because, like you said, the Audi just seems to be like crazy in a straight line. So at the start, Thomas got away on the start because he's in a Beamer, and like the Audi's race starts aren't great, but I just slipstreamed past him on the straight, which just shows how fast these cars are on a straight.
It certainly does, but that takes away, I think, some of the credit that you very much do deserve, Ollie, because that seems to be a pretty impeccable race from you. Sometimes when we're in the commentary box, we don't often talk about some drivers all that much, really, and that can just be because you've done such a good job that it's been a pretty much, a news story-free race almost. I think you certainly did have that because you just quietly got along with it and just control things quite nicely. Did that feel like a particularly kind of strenuous race? Are you looking forward to the reverse grid challenge coming up in just a couple of minutes?
Yeah, I think I am. I just mainly in that race, was just focusing on keeping consistent lap times and not making any mistakes, because after every lap I kept looking at the gap and just to see if I was doing better or worse. And it just seemed that I was pulling away, so I was kind of like, I was trying to settle for a certain lap time and have it as a target and just keep trying to hit the target over and over again. But yeah, the tyres started to go off at the end as well, so I'm glad it finished when it did, to be honest.
Well, that is interesting to hear, because from our point of view, it just looked like such a cool, calm and collected race. But well done once again, Ollie Atkins. Congratulations on your maiden victory. Quick question, actually. Do you think this is a bit of a confidence boost before you head into the second half of the season? Should we be seeing more of you in these podium interviews after this?
I hope so. I've got quite a lot of work to do, though, because everyone else here is just so quick, and it's quite hard, because everyone races cars and stuff, so it's hard to keep up with all of them. But then it just gives me a little smile when I manage to be on pace with them.
Oh, well, that's brilliant. That's the most important thing, I think. That is absolutely lovely to hear, Ollie. And hopefully, as I say, we do, as I've said to everyone this evening, we hear more from you, not only this evening, but throughout the rest of the season as well. I think if we could, we'd like to interview every driver, because they all do a very good job out there, as you say, Ollie. But congratulations on your maiden touring car victory. I'm sure there's more to come, and enjoy the upcoming races.
Thank you.
Yeah, well done, Ollie. Thanks, Ree, for bailing me out there and giving me a little bit of a breather. For those of you might be able to hear it in my voice, I'm struggling a little bit with. Well, I don't know if it's the end of man flu or the beginning of another lot of man flu, but it's the third bug I've had over the winter, which is a little bit of a pain. But thanks ever so much, Ree. Yeah, well done, Ollie Atkins, on getting a win. One in the Formula Ford 1600s. Now gets a win here as well. And never an easy thing to do to win one of these VRRC races, and we'll see whether the guys we've got up front in this one. Top 10 reverse, Christian Gillian and Alex Forster. Kieran Haynes and Oliver Gibson next up from Thomas Potter and Andy Dorman. Then we've got Jack Smith, Gabe Norse, the first of the three drivers we heard from, Scott Bugner, and then Ollie Atkins in P10. The ones we need to keep an eye on, not perhaps so much in this one, because it's going to be about points from the two races, but to try and work their way up the order and get the points, are going to be Andy Carroll, Paul Laramie, Kenny Press, Chris Blakey, who are outside the reverse section on this one. So they'll be a little bit disappointed to be outside that, as we've got just under a minute to go. And that GT meeting that we were talking about, the GT4 evening that we had, was back in September last year. So not really that long ago. Rich Hayden, who's clearly fallen out of love with the place now, won the first race from Scott Bugner and Andy Dorman. Andy Carroll won race 2. That was his last win, I think, with us here. Scott Bugner and Ollie Smith was in third place. It'd be nice to see Ollie back at some point. And Lewis Stannard, our front-running mini racer, who I think is now doing stuff with 750 Motor Club, won the third race from Rich Hayden again. So 2 podiums for Hayden last time. He's got some work to do here. And Thomas Potter got the third position, the final podium position, back in September last year. No time to say any more. She's about to get going with Gillian and Forster. An intriguing front row and good opportunity here. Christian's already had a podium, had a P2 at Bathurst to Gabe Norse. And away we go. Let's see who gets away the quickest. It is Christian Gillian that gets away absolutely superbly well. Kieran Haynes is having a look up the inside as well. But by goodness, Reeve, that's tight there, isn't it, if you've got the inside line?
It is indeed. I did think this was going to be an interesting race start. We had a bit more of an Audi field towards the front end, and we have a car coming across the track. Our drivers expertly avoiding that, it looks to be. So well done, drivers there. But a few more of the front-wheel drive cars at the front end of the pack did mean that those BMWs in the mid-pack are right there. It was a bit of a traffic jam at turn one. So once again, drivers well navigated. As Gibson now leads the charge with a comfortable margin. Forster versus Haynes and Teapot's back on the scene at the upper end of the running. Dorman in P7, the driver we're focusing on at the moment, is Gabriel Norse, is looking to replicate his efforts from the start of the previous race, this time out in the race 2 this evening, in order to work his way up from the mid-pack as well. Andy Carroll is a driver who's enjoyed some success this season as well. He's currently in P8, is on the back of this pack as well, but P8 is only a couple of tenths of a second away from a P4 or a P5, so very close at this start of the race, of course. As we go back to the upper end of this pack, Thomas Potter has a look down the inside, is side by side with Gabriel Norse this time around. Might not give him all too much of a competition from that point of the circuit, as we start to settle into a bit of a rhythm at this race now.
Not quite sure where Gibson came from. I think, well, he was row 2, wasn't he, in this one? So yeah, he was a little bit further back than I was initially thinking. But nonetheless, to get through everything and build that lead that she's got at the moment, 1.4 seconds over Alex Forster in P2. Kieran Haynes in 3rd. Jack Smith is next up. A little bit of contact there. Is that Lee Piercy doling it out? I say doling it out. It's unintentional, but it probably will nonetheless attract a penalty of some description. Lee not having the best luck in this series as well. We normally get to chat to Lee Piercy several times in terms of podium interviews, but this one not really playing out for him or his teammate Rich Hayden at the moment. Where is Rich? I think he's really struggling with these ones. Is he actually in this one, Rich Hayden? Can't see him on the timing screen.
Hey, it looks like he's in P18 at the moment.
Yeah, he's quite a way down, and I know he won't thank me for saying that, but I need to be careful actually what I say about Rich. But I bigged him up with the 2 podiums when we were here last September. I don't think the car or the track works for him, but he's trying to claw his way up as Gabe Norse is trying to put the pressure on Jack Smith again. So Gabe Norse here, is he going to get a double scalp over Jack Smith? This is P1 in the championship leading P2. Now remember, Norse got the better of Smith in race 1. So this is a key battle, and Steve's done a good job on picking up key for the race, key for in terms of the championship positions, and Gabe Norse will be keen to get another podium here. If you go away with 3 podiums, then the likelihood is you're going to be in with a shout of getting the gold medal position on the round. So that's Gabe's, I guess, overall aim. But within that, he'll want to have a straight race with Jack Smith and get in front of him. So fascinating to see how these, and of course the other thing is they're very evenly matched in the BMWs, which is great to be able to see.
They are, and I think it was very interesting to hear from Gabriel there, the quiet confidence I think he had that he hasn't demonstrated to me so far this season otherwise, that he did feel like he had that slight advantage to Jack Smith and was happy to say that in interviews. And you know that when a driver can just sort of nonchalantly say that in a post-race interview, that they must be feeling pretty happy and in the zone. So this could be a good race weekend for Gabriel Norse if things work out this way. As we go on board with Kieran Haynes in P3 at the moment. Ollie Atkins down in P9 is a driver that we now look at just behind Thomas Potter here. And here is our fight for the championship playing out for P4 once again.
Yeah, this is fascinating. And wherever you look, I mean, all the drivers in the top 10, and you know, sometimes I think some people might think that I'm sort of building them up, but they are all capable of winning. All a little bit of a contact on the back there from Gabe Norse getting into the draft, a little bit of, not bump drafting, but a little tap on the rear end of Jack Smith. But genuinely, all of the drivers in the top 10 are capable of winning. And then we go outside that, you've got Scott Bugner, race winner, Paul Laramie, race winner, Kenny Press has won races, Lee Piercy does as well. I think the only one we haven't had on the top step of the podium is the next driver, 15th place, Robert Shepherd. So that's the company that Robert, as a relative newcomer into VRRC racing, is doing. And he's looking to try and improve on his best result, 13th at Bathurst, Robert Shepherd. So we wish him well. And he's up ahead of Jack Dickerson. Nice to see Jack back with us. He only did one race at Pascani, as Ollie Atkins and Scott Bugner going side by side here. So fascinating battle between these two, with Thomas Potter in the mix as well.
It absolutely is, as we see Atkins down the inside, get ahead of the teapot. Now Ollie Atkins maybe almost sounded like he was somewhat taken by surprise by his impressive pace here. He's certainly mixing it with the big guys though, so he's going to be enjoying his time out, and maybe the commentator's curse into effect, as unfortunately that is Atkins around. Bit of a clip on the rear end there, bit of side-by-side action there, unfortunately sees that Audi pointing the wrong direction, and that is Ollie Atkins out of the fight for now. We still have 15 minutes to go in this race, so I'm sure there's still a good amount of points potentially on offer for him, but what a shame to see his race come to a premature end as we go on board with Andy Carroll.
Yeah, that's a big shame, isn't it? And championship points-wise, it could potentially drop out of the top 10, depending on, again, how he regroups. And I said in race 1 about resilience. If he's resilient enough, he's got decent points for the win in race 1. So hopefully if he can build his way back up. And what was happening with Gabe Norse there?
Not too sure. Almost looks like a bit of a misshift potentially, as he just seemed to trail back out of the final corner. Maybe my musings of a broken BMW might have accidentally come true there. Hopefully not, as Andy Carroll continues on in P3. It must be contagious. I promise it all.
We definitely hope not. Gabe having a little rub with the barrier anyway, as Ollie Gibson leads from Kieran Haynes. So good to have Kieran up there as well, another Formula Ford 1600 convert with us. Well, not a convert, he's still very much into his Formula Ford 1600, but a carryover. He stayed with us, which is what we like to see as we go on board with Andy Dorman. Looking to pick up some more useful points here, Andy Dorman. And you see, with Ollie Atkins, you could get a tap, you could go off, and I don't like using the word luck, but fortune has to smile on you as well as you having the skill in these, because it's so easy to get the rogue tap from behind or the wrong momentum from a side-by-side and go off. But Andy Dorman here, I'm not going to say anything because I don't want to put the bad karma on him.
The commentator's curse follows me around far more than it ought to, really, so I do apologise for the drivers for my presence this evening. Andy Dorman is currently running along in P7, is finding a way past Alex Forster. A bit of a drag race here, some Audi on Audi action down the inside goes Andy Dorman up into P6. Is the move sealed? I think it just about is, although Alex Forster gets a great run out the corner and is looking to find a way up alongside him once again. Great little battle between these two Audis as Jack Smith just up ahead, only a few tenths of a second up the road as we move on to Kieran Haynes. We did mention Kieran Haynes in race 1, and this could be a real opportunity for him, this reverse grid action, and that certainly seems to be the case so far. Up into P2, not quite there with Oliver Gibson, but is certainly making the most of his position at the start of this race.
Gibson certainly enjoying the clear air at the moment, isn't he? Was fastest lap. Now Andy Carroll gets it, so the blue with orange trim car chasing Kieran Haynes for P2. Now the thing is here, will they work together? Probably not. We never see drivers from other teams working with each other, but in theory, if they were to work together, they might be able to close down on Ollie Gibson and then have a bit of a sort out on the last lap, which is pretty much what we saw from the Legends Cars race. If you haven't watched it on ITVX yet, I implore you to go back and watch the Legends Cars. It was all about moving on the last lap. Metaphorically, a game of chess at 120 miles an hour with the Legends Cars, and if these guys work with it, but they're not, they're racing for position here. This is going to allow Ollie Gibson to get away. I think Ollie's got the outright pace on his own to do that anyway, and certainly the people at the hot cab will be screaming that is the case as he continues to pull away here from row 2. Where did Andy Carroll start? He was outside the top 10, Andy Carroll. This is a pretty mega performance, isn't it?
Yeah, this really is. To say that the reverse grid action often causes a load of fighting at the front, which can be a bit of an impenetrable wall. He's done well to work his way up into P3. Lee Piercy is down in P9, doing some battling there, as well as Gabriel Norse, one of our championship contenders, is looking to get the upper hand on Jack Smith. Currently does have that position, but is hoping to make that a couple more, I am sure. If he can perhaps use the likes of Haynes and Carroll up in front as a bit of a buffer zone, that would be a perfect position for Norse in this race. 10 minutes to go. We've still got just over half race distance to complete. We go on board with Andy Dorman, who's just a little bit behind the 4 cars up in front, but is poised and in a very good position if this battle starts to get a little bit too hot out in front.
Haynes having a good battle out front, so Carroll not assured of a podium thus far, but either way, I suppose what one would think that he, as we look at Andy Dorman's, that Andy Carroll, if he makes a mistake, could get mugged here by the 3 cars immediately behind him, so he's going to have to play things fairly carefully, but absolutely remarkable job from him to come from outside the top 10 and get it up into par. I didn't think that was going to be possible. I didn't think outside top 10, with the quality of drivers we've got, outside top 10 was to podium was going to be possible. But Andy Carroll defying that as Gabe Norse continues to get stuck in with Jack Smith, and Gabe Norse with bragging rights at the moment as Gabe looks at the back end of Kieran Haynes, so fourth looking to third position, and this could potentially take the pressure off Andy Carroll a little bit.
Could indeed, if these two begin to battle a little bit too hard and begin to slow themselves down. Norse, you can see, is trying absolutely everything, just absolutely smashing those curbs here at Watkins Glen, and somehow the car still in somewhat of a state of control. Haynes on the defence, looking very calm in comparison, while Carroll, as you say, is just nicely building up a small gap and making sure that his P2 is secure for the time being. Haynes is currently Andy Carroll's best friend in this race, as it turns out, as Norse goes for a move down the inside there. Was that opportunistic? I think that is fair to say. He has found it open to P3, and Haynes unfortunately goes from bad to worse after that move. There we see Haynes tumbles down to P7. Dorman was involved in there as well, and Haynes is still pointing in the wrong direction. This is tragic for Kieran Haynes there. He's doing the right thing, of course, by waiting for a safe opportunity to rejoin the circuit and continue on, but his race coming to a very quick end there as we go back on board with P4. They're a little bit of a ways behind Jack Smith. Bit of breathing room to Forster now. I think that might be one that is reviewed later on.
I think you're probably right about that. Doesn't bring any points back, though, does it, for Kieran Haynes, which is a little bit of a pity. And a shame for us, because we were keen to see how that one played out. But did you just see the way Jack Smith almost looked like he knew that was going to happen? It was almost as if it was an Alan Gow type touring car script. We don't have those in the real world, by the way, but I just thought I'd say that. But he, nipped up into P3 and just, floated through. Float like a butterfly, sting like a bee. I know the Latin version of that. I'll treat you with that one day.
Oh, please do. That sounds brilliant. Of course, those of you who are more on my intellectual level, the Pixar Cars version of that is also good.
What's that one?
That is a float like a Cadillac, sting like a Beamer.
Ah, superb. That's even better.
That could be good for LMDH enthusiasts, or if we ever see some E36s hitting some curbs again in this series.
Now, you see the signage there, Zippo. Is that where the cars go lighter?
Oh dear. And on that note, I'd like to announce my retirement from the... No, I'm joking, of course. That is, I am all for those puns. I mean, keep them coming.
Back to the race. Gibson's still leading. 3.2 seconds now over Andy Carroll. Remember, Carroll's last win came here, so we might get another podium out of him. And then it's Jack Smith, not that far behind. So Jack Smith getting within a second now of Andy Carroll. And Gabe Norse trying to close on him as well. So at what point does Jack Smith start getting nervous, if at all, of Gabe Norse behind him? Alex Forster running a really nice, strong fifth place at the moment. And that would equal his best of the campaign so far. He's already had 2 fifth places in this campaign, but great to see Alex up there and solidly in 5th position. Andy Dorman is in 6th again. Andy's only had 2 finishes outside the top 10 so far in this campaign. That's why he's running so strongly in the points.
Yeah, it would be very nice to see Forster rewarded with further points in this series, because so many times we, in the comms box, all of us have had the opportunity to enjoy some of the racing that he is definitely a big part of. He's always in the mix and enjoying some battles, so it'd be great to see him rewarded with a few more points. A few of his races have ended up, in unfortunate circumstances, so I'm sure everyone will be enjoying a top 5 finish for him, if not a little bit more, as we head further into the season as well. I'm looking at Scott Bugner down the straight here, using that slipstream effect, using the high beams to full effect as well into the first corner, and closes up on Kenny Press. Starts to intimidate with the high beams, as I say, hasn't found a way past just yet, but I know that we're going to go on for a great battle between that duo, as we now see Dorman versus Forster pretty much on cue. I say that Alex Forster gets involved in some great battles, and we could be on for another one here, as there's 2 Audis side by side. Dorman just about has the upper hand, it looks like. Gets a nose out in front. No, he's on the outside, so Forster has the shorter way around and maintains P5 through the switchback curves, but almost runs a little bit wide there, seems to slow down, and Dorman says thank you very much, and up into P5 for Andy Dorman there. So that's that move settled for the time being. I don't think it's quite over yet, though. We still have 6.5 minutes to go, and these two, I'm sure, are going to continue on their fight.
Me mentioning the P5s, wasn't it, really? So the curse for him. Just having a little bit of a look further back on the timing screen to pick up on some of the drivers. Ollie Atkins down in 18th, obviously trying to recover. Robert Shepherd in 19th from Caden Cook. Christian Gillian, who started up at the sharp end with us, has had a little bit of a nightmare in this one as well. Sadly, is in 21st. What about Thomas Potter? 11th at the moment. So Thomas is coming back. Jack Dickinson 12th. Chris Blakey next up. But we've heard of Tenacious D, but we've got Tenacious P, which is Lee Pearcey, who's come through from very nearly last in the early stages up into the top 10. He's in 9th.
Yeah, brilliant job from Lee Pearcey there, and my new favourite nickname of any driver to boot. But a couple of points on offer, and might be just one fewer there if Craig Curtis has anything to say about it. Could be another great battle going on here between Audi versus BMW. I do really like one of the things I love about this format, this series, is the tracks have been picked very well. There's a really strong mix of some weeks it's going to be the BMW that wins, some weeks it's going to be the Audi that comes out on top and is the easier car to navigate around the track. And I think that is just going to add that little bit extra element of anticipation as we head further towards the end of the season.
Yeah, you're right about yeah, sorry, mate. You're right about the pick of tracks as Craig Curtis tries to go through, and Pearcey is forced wide. He doesn't want to relinquish that 9th place that he's worked hard to get, and he's still on the outside run here. And at the moment, seeing off Craig Curtis, but Craig is not going to be shaken off. This could be a battle right the way to the flag. He's got 4 minutes to go, but yeah, the choice of tracks. Rich Hayden didn't listen to me when I said put Liddon Hill in the mix. He didn't want to know.
I think
and understandably why.
I think if we'd stick to some of the more traditional British tracks, you know, many of us will have seen these cars actually navigating. But back in the day, I say that it's unfortunately before my time, but I think we would have seen quite a few of these E36 BMWs looking a lot like the Sofa car or something like that, where they wouldn't have quite been the same shape towards the end of the races.
The Sofa car, that was Ed China built that. Did you know that?
I meant the Sofa car. Sorry, like just the.
I thought you meant the Sofa car.
No. The Sofa car is a brilliant piece of machinery, and I'd love to see that racing as well, along with that shed car, perhaps. But that would be brilliant. Let's petition for that for the next series, Rich, shall we?
The Sofa E series, a Sophie series. There we go. Ollie Gibson and Jackson. Sorry, we'll get back on track in a minute. Apologies to Becky, who's probably listening and thinking, what are they on, when she comes back from tap dancing. So it is, yeah, Jack Smith P2, 4.70, all looking relatively settled. Is it safe, Reeve, for me to get my pen out and start to write down the podium finishes?
It could well be, because if you do that, we might just have it all reversed once again. It's always a brave game to play, that, isn't it? But yeah, a big thank you to Becky for stepping in last week, as perhaps we've mentioned. And as you say, I'm sure she's watching on thinking, what on earth? And she should have a good warning, though. To be fair, she had to endure a weekend of commentating with me, so that should be warning enough to know that just what the viewer's going to be in for over these coming weeks. So you'll be pleased to know I'm not here this next week, because I'll be at the Nurburgring myself, so you all get a bit of respite from Reeve before he makes his return.
No, you're always welcome. I think everyone loves having you. I certainly do. And if we could do a three-way, it'd probably get a bit messy, but maybe a fun race at the end of the year we'll do to get everybody on. Jacko and everybody else in the mix as well. Gabe North's trying to close down on Andy Carroll. So Andy's dropped now behind Jack Smith, as we can see. We've got 1 minute 46 on the clock. We might still have a change for the podium, as you said, because Gabe North would dearly love to be the double podium guy here. I'll tell you what, he's not far away.
He certainly is not. Carroll is going to be looking in his rearview mirrors now for that car that is running down the inside, gets closer through the braking zone there. Has to think better of it this time around. We've seen this corner go a little bit differently throughout other points in this race, and Carroll clings on to P3 for the time being. Typical sight there, the BMW, they're looking to go to the outside lane with the high beams flashing. That is pretty standard stuff, of course, and Carroll controls things still in P3 for the time being, but have a look down the inside. There is Gabriel Norse there. Goes later on the brakes. It looks as if he's got a bit more corner entry in his car at this late phase of the race, potentially, or at least he's got more confidence in it. It's just a very strong defence from Andy Carroll means that he's not found a way past just yet. Yeah,
we're in the closing stages of the penultimate lap here, and Oliver Gibson is already crossing, or just about to cross the line to go on to the last lap. So Andy Carroll probably would have been happy to have seen the clock tick down. He's got to defend for another lap here, so we'll see whether he can do that. Gibson, Jack Smith with fastest lap. Again, the metronome, isn't he? Jack Smith just keeps banging away, trying to go for the perfect lap, and he's done that. Extra points, of course, for fastest lap, if I recall correctly. Carroll still in third, North next up, Andy Dorman solid fifth, Alex Forster sixth from Scott Bugner, who's actually, with his elbows in, managed to get up to seventh place from Kenny Press. Craig Curtis, Lee Pearcey still in the top 10, so really good drive from Lee Pearcey. And Reeve, not really at this point, but we begin to start to think about driver of the round. And we won't really know until we see the progress in race 3. But a couple of names from further back down the grid, like Andy Carroll making great progress, Lee Pearcey. If we're looking outside of the top 10 of the championship to think about driver of the round, they're setting out perhaps an early claim for that.
Yeah, they absolutely are. Sometimes it's pretty black and white, isn't it, that who's going to be driver of the round. You can, as you say, you can often tell from this early on, but particularly over a couple of rounds of this season, it has been not quite so apparent. Everyone has been pretty much on their A game, as we can see Norse once again trying a move down the inside there, but a well-positioned Audi in front means that he is not able to find a way past at all in this race. We look on board with our race leader.
Yeah, Oliver Gibson into the last few corners and very much heading home. And look at the gap that he's got. 3 seconds on the clock. Not as big a gap as we had from Ollie Atkins in race 1, but he's worked really hard for this, to be absolutely fair. Got away from row 2 in the grid, so he had to do it. It's going to be a brothers 1-2, almost a repeat of what we had. Just sort of see how many of those we've had. I think just the one. In fact, it's a repeat of the Nurburgring final, isn't it? After the amendments. But Oliver Gibson will come up and take the checkered flag. Oliver Gibson gets the win here, and it's going to be Jack Smith in P2. His brother from Andy Carroll at the moment hanging on to P3. I think Andy's done a good defence there, so it was a good charge and a good defence from Andy Carroll. Hopefully some decent points to put him up the front order for later on. Lee Pearcey here heading Craig Curtis. Kenny Press has done a good job in this one as well, Reeve. He's in 8th place with Scott Bugler in 7th, and then Alex Forster in 6th ahead of them.
Yeah, absolutely. So many just quiet stories of success this weekend so far. Kenny Press, a driver that we haven't really discussed all that much, but still an immense job to work his way up into the points, and some decent points to take away from this one. As I said in the interviews at the end of race 1, it would be great if we could chat to every driver, because every driver seems to have had something to take away from this weekend. Alas, we cannot, so I believe it's only our podium sitters who'll be coming up in just a few moments.
It is just going through. So Ollie Atkins goes through in 15th, Kieran Haynes 16th, Cat Potter 17th from Rich Hayden, Caden Cook 19th, Robert Shepherd in 20th place. Now last finisher is going to be Christian Gillian. Podium will be Gabe Norse. No, it won't. Podium, I'm looking at the timing screen, will be Oliver Gibson, Jack Smith and Andy Carroll. We'll catch up with those in just a couple of minutes.
Early stages of the second Legends Cars race.
And here we go once again. After some fantastic racing, we get to have a chat with our podium sitters. So, the man in P3, Mr. Andy Carroll. How are you doing this evening, Andy? Congratulations on another podium.
Yes, cheers. Thank you. Doing well after that race. Yeah.
Yeah, it certainly looked like it. You didn't have a completely easy time towards the end of race 2, did you? You had a bit of competition in the form of Mr. Norse just behind, obviously another championship contender there. So how did you enjoy that fight?
Yeah, it was obviously clinging on by my fingernails for a podium. Obviously the Audi has a bit of an advantage around here, so I was trying to put that to use wherever I could. He was very good on the brakes, so a couple of times I thought he was going to send it up the inside, but I just managed to keep him behind me in that middle sector, and then I think I was a bit quicker in the final sector, and then I sort of lost lost the slipstream from Jack in front after a couple of laps. And so yeah, it was a bit. He reeled me in a bit again in that first sector, but I think just about did enough to keep him behind.
I think you did. It was great from our point of view, though. And what I do like about this phase of the evening is that effectively this battle now carries on into the next race. So are you looking forward to that challenge to continue that on, but with a race start in the mix as well?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. This is obviously it's nice to have a track where you can kind of try and at least be competitive with the likes of Jack and Gabriel and Oliver. Yeah, obviously, traditionally or typically I wouldn't be able to keep them behind me quite as easily, but yeah, it's a good track for the Audi. So looking forward to hopefully some more good battles in race 3.
Certainly we are as well, and we talked about this a little bit during race 2 there. This is a season where we can talk about the Audi's better at some venues, the BMW is going to be better at some others. Here at Watkins Glen, we've discussed it obviously, as you say, the Audi it seems to have the upper hand here. What particularly is it, do you think? Is it just that straight line speed, or is there something else from your point of view driving the car that you notice being really good for the Audi at Watkins Glen?
Yeah, I mean obviously it helps up the straight up the hill there. Although if the BMs have got a slipstream, they seem to be able to stay with us. But no, I find it because it turns in so well. You can kind of keep quite a tight line through a lot of the corners, whereas the sort of BMs look like they sort of tend to wash out a little bit and sort of V back. So yeah, you can be quite aggressive particularly in that final sector. You can be quite aggressive on some of those corners, and it seems to grip. The front seems to grip quite well. So I think for me that's the difference. Very
nice. Well, we've already seen you with some success with this car so far this season. So I take it, are you pleased with the choice overall? You're glad you went the route that you went, and you're going to be enjoying Interlagos, Mugello, and Ricardo Tormo coming up next? Yeah. I don't think. If there's ever a choice between front and rear wheel drive, I don't think I'm ever picking rear wheel drive. I'm a front wheel drive man, so yeah, it was always going to be the Audi, I think. So yeah, but very happy with this. In the real world, I always say I'm a rear wheel drive man, right up until kind of December, January, where it starts to get a bit icy on the road, and I immediately grab the keys for the front wheel drive Alpha because you can actually get me to work. So on some level, although nowhere near as competitively as yourself, I do relate. But congratulations, Andy, for another podium this season. Hopefully we'll get an opportunity to chat with you this evening. If not, I'm sure we will elsewhere throughout the season. Congratulations on P3. Cheers, thank you. So following Andy, we move on to P2, to a man who is obviously in the fight for the championship. Hello, Mr. Jack Smith. Great to chat to you once again, and congratulations on P2 in race 2.
Yeah, cheers, mate. It was a great little race there, and yeah, I think I managed to get the best result I possibly could have there. I think, yeah, I was trying to get through the Audis at the start as quickly as I possibly could, but there was a big wall of them out of T1, so there was no chance there. So, yeah, made do what I could have done, and yeah, we got away with a nice little result there. So, yeah, quite happy with P2 there.
Yeah, you must be, especially given that obviously the DK Power Squad have done very well out of race 2, haven't they? It's a 1-2 finish for you guys, and obviously it continues on the championship fight to both of you. In fact, it looks very good from that point of view. So, are you pleased with the results? Are you happy that Oliver Gibson's done as well as he has done as well?
Oh, 100%. I mean, yeah, Ollie's, he's basically on pace with me, so if he's in the lead, there was no chance I was catching him up. So yeah, he's been driving mega all season. So yeah, just happy we can get the points in as a team. I think we've got a fairly sizable lead now in the team champ. So yeah, I think we've done a really good job there, and we've got to carry it forward now. Just keep on going, just to get as many points as we possibly can. Really, that's the goal. I think race 3 will make it a little bit easier, given that it's a points tally. So. That makes the grid up, so it should be a little bit easier for us in this one. But yeah, I honestly thought the Audis would have a little bit more in the races. To be honest, I was a bit surprised we could get past them in the final sector so quickly. But yeah, no, pleasantly surprised.
I'm not sure how much of that is car-based and how much of that is magic in the driver's seat, to be honest, because it does seem to be that the Audis, for once, as much as it pains me to say, as you well know, Jack, I'm a bit of a BMW fan, as a lot of my friends are as well. It pains me to say, but the Audis seem to have the measure this week, and I think you guys have done a very good job, to say the least, particularly as you mentioned, that race to start. A wall of Audis is pretty formidable, but the one thing the BMW does have, it is getting away off the line nice and quick, but you managed to keep the nose clean at that race start. So are we hoping for just a bit of a plain sailing? You'll be happy with another podium, even if it's not a race win?
I think everyone sort of hopes you get a plain sailing race, but it's never the case in this series. So, yeah, we'll have to see how it plays out. But yeah, it's just the Audis are so fast at the first sector, and the BMs come back halfway through the lap. So, yeah, I think at the start we'll probably pull away, but you know, if the Audis are in clean air behind us, I think they'll probably catch up a little bit down the line, definitely towards the midpoint of the race. So it would be interesting to watch. So I'm sure it's going to be exciting.
It will be indeed, and as I say, you know, as we all know, the BMWs get off the line pretty well here, and it's a BMW front row with your teammate. Team orders, have they been discussed? Are they going to come into play at all, or you are going to go side by side, full elbows out, even at the potential sacrifice of some points?
Nah, we never do team orders. It's always the only thing Ollie messages me before the race is how much fuel do I need. That's it. So that is literally the maximum conversation we'll have before a race. So no team orders on this half.
That's what we like to hear. Looking forward to seeing what we make of race 3 then. Congratulations on another podium at Jack Smith, I'm sure, and in fact I know we'll be able to chat with you. More opportunities further throughout this evening and the season as well. So congratulations, Jack.
Cheers, mate. Thank you.
So then we move on to our race winner, Mr. Ollie Gibson. Congratulations, Ollie, there for your race victory here at Watkins. I'll try that again. Watkins Glen. You must be enjoying it.
I enjoyed that one. Tom was pretty straightforward. I had a really good start, like pretty much no wheel spin, and then just obviously had two Audis I think in front, and then managed to get a gap and just get round them. So yeah, and then after that was plain sailing. But I've been struggling with this track. I don't know what it is, just on and off. Some laps are quick, some laps are rubbish. So I'm glad to find a little bit of consistency. But obviously it was a bit easier than race 1, so I just the same again really for this race would be nice, but who knows? It
would indeed, and we've just chatting to Jack there about the battle that I'm sure you two are going to have. We don't have long until the race 3 gets underway, actually, so I am going to let you go very quickly. Olive Gibson, just want to say congratulations on a race victory.
Cheers, thank you.
I think the moral of the story is if you want to know how much fuel to put in, then go to Jack's racing school, isn't it? He didn't mention the racing school, Reeve, did he?
No, he didn't. That's a very good point there. So well, you've heard it now, folks. If you want some team orders free racing that I think we're about to enjoy, but you will know how much fuel to put in, which is a good. I think that's particularly prudent advice given the current state of the fueling crisis that we have in this country. So
yeah, just when we think it's going to be sorted, it gets worse again, doesn't it? As well.
At least that's the one perk of virtual racing here. We don't have to worry about the fuel bill.
No, just the electric bill. And I don't think I heard him say hi to everyone at the hot cabin, so we'll do that as well. Hello to everyone at the hot cabin. So yeah, this is going to be a tight one, isn't it? Smith, Gibson, Norse, Bugner, Dorman, and again, if you were going to write a script, that's the way you would do it in terms of all the front runners from the VRRC all together, and a lot more besides behind, who could very well get in on the action as our final 20-minute race of the evening is about to unfold. Lighting sequence is complete now, and we are racing. So which of the two brothers is it going to be, or are we going to see Gabe Norse from row 2 come up? Gabe's certainly having a look, but it's Jack Smith from Oliver Gibson, and Smith will lead them round. Now, they said no team orders, but realistically, they're not going to fight too hard, because what they won't want to do, and I haven't seen it to my knowledge or memory, the two brothers taking each other out, and they'll probably not thank me for saying that, but it's not something I recall seeing before.
No, it's not. And it's certainly not something that we want to see at all, given the successes. Otherwise, you know, that they seem to be in a really good place at the moment, though, so enjoying their time on the VRRC, as Norse is looking to put a stopper on that and join in on this action here. We do make our way through in single file. It didn't look like it was going to be there, as Scott Bugner, with the upper hand that the Audi has in that first sector, is using that advantage to close up on Norse, has to tumble back for the time being, while Norse continues to keep the pressure on the DK Power Squad.
I think that Bugner has given his elbows a rest, and now they're fully rested. He's got them out again in P4. Certainly going for it, wasn't he? And you know that's his trademark line, isn't it? Scott Bugner. Andy Dorman back in fifth, picking up good points, taking a nice wide line. Thomas Potter up there again. Another quick start from Thomas in the BMW. Ollie Atkins is seventh, so this is a sort of second bite of the cherry for Ollie Atkins. Picked up great points, obviously, from the win in race number 1. And he's well inside of the top 10. Lee Pearcey, a lot of hard work this evening, being rewarded with 8th place. Alex Forster 9th, Chris Blakey in 10th, from Kenny Press and Jack Dickerson. And again, you just look down, and you know all of these drivers are capable of taking the wins. So it is difficult to try and predict how it's going to go. But Gibson at the moment having to play second fiddle to his brother as we ride on board with Andy Dorman. And this is where it all now starts to unfold for us, and we'll see which battles are going to slow each other up, which ones are going to allow drivers to maybe make breaks. I think we could possibly, you know, Dorman and Bugner, if they engage, that could free up Gabe Norse to have a go at Oliver Gibson, and he's certainly keen to be there or thereabouts at the moment. But yeah, we just don't know, do we, how this is going to pan out. Top 5 have broken free though. Ollie Atkins with Thomas Potter right with him. Ollie, we know, has got the pace from the first race, but he'll be keen to try and see if he can lose Thomas in the BMW. And Lee Pearcey, nice to see Lee. Maybe Lee's getting to grips with it. Perhaps hadn't done as much practice as he would have wanted, and he's getting to grips with the car over the course of the evening as they go side by side for the lead.
They do indeed. Smith clings on to that race lead. Gibson flying over the curbs there, but the car looks relatively composed, all things considered. Buckner goes around the outside of Norse there. That's a fantastic move from the grey and green Audi there, and up into P3. Well done, Scott Buckner. Another driver that you mentioned there, Rich. Some of them maybe not getting the most practice in beforehand. You know, real life often gets in the way, unfortunately, but just getting more and more comfortable with the track as we progress further through the evening. There's evidence of that if ever I've seen it. Scott looking rather electric here as he fights up into P3. We know that Norse has some decent pace, yet he's found his match in the form of Scott Bugner here in race 3. Dorman's on the scene as well. It's not too far behind at all. There is Thomas Potter enjoying a bit of a battle with Atkins and Pearcey. Pearcey, as we say, has been a bit of a hidden gem in this race evening, if you will, because he's just been quietly getting those overtakes in and having a really good time out here at Watkins Glen. So hopefully we get some chance to chat with him at some point this evening. But so far, Smith and Gibson controlling things quite nicely, but not able to break away, perhaps as much as they would want to. I did think, you know, with that good launch that the 3 Series has off the line and the fact that they are racing for the same team, they should be able to just control things quite nicely from the get-go. But the field strength here has had other plans for that, hasn't it?
Yeah, it has. It's it's amazing how, you know, now we don't have the points reversed on the race 3s, how much the complexion of these championship races has changed. And I'm sure that Rich will probably go back at some point to having reverse grid racing and maybe giving some of the other drivers a shout at a bit of front end coverage, shall we say, in some of the races. But for the moment, this works very, very well indeed. Smith still out front, fastest lap of the race. Oliver Gibson in P2. Andy Dorman starting to get stuck in now, and having a look at Gabe Norse as well. Just having a look at Andy Carroll into the top 10. So Andy, I can't remember where Andy was in race 1. I think he was 11th, wasn't he, in race 1? So still having to start a fair way back, Andy Carroll, in this one. And Lee Pearcey ahead of him. And as I start to think about who might be a contender for driver of the round, it might even be a late decision. And I did wonder, actually, because Jack Smith won it last week, but then got a penalty in the judicial. So I wonder whether we shouldn't maybe sort of delay it till next week, but then we wouldn't have time for an interview, would we?
I think the commentator's curse there, it turns out, can break out of the racing as well, so it seems, and even trickle in to the post-race awards there. So apologies for that one. At least it wasn't my fault this time around. I can at least take solace in that. But we go on board with Scott Bugner. We had a great shot there from Potter and Atkins, where we see that inside angle of just what the drivers are doing here at Watkins Glen. The track diagram from an outside view looks a little bit more simple than some of the tracks that we'll visit, particularly some of the touring car series would have visited on the British scene back in the 90s. But it is a complicated beast, is Watkins Glen. It's got plenty of elevation, it's got some very technical corners, and it is a great track. I do thoroughly enjoy watching racing here in particular. Some of the old American series are fantastic, and the VRRC is certainly one that I've enjoyed as well. There has been a great evening's worth of racing as we see Bugner under pressure here from Gabriel Norse, who has put in an absolute flyer on the last lap. We're 6 or so minutes in to this one, so still plenty of life left in the tyres, and the fuel tanks might be slightly depleted based on where they were at the start of the race. And Norse is using the pace in his car to his best of his abilities at the moment as he goes side by side with Bugner. It becomes a drag race. Both have the slipstream from the cars in front, but it's Bugner with the inside line there, bounding over the curbs, goes a front-wheel drive machine, but it doesn't make too much of a difference. In fact, Bugner is looking poised to fight for P2 now. He's already having a look down the inside on Oliver Gibson if he can, but Norse might be following him through there as well. All of a sudden, this becomes a very interesting battle for the podium.
It does. You'd expect with them squabbling, as you described, to be slowing each other up, but far from it. Actually closing up on Gibson, which maybe suggests to me that he's playing a little bit of cat and mouse with Jack Smith out front as well. Jack not really tearing away with things at the moment. So this pretty much a 5-car train for the lead, or we may say maybe perhaps better off saying a 4-car train for P2 at the moment. Gibson, Bugner, Norse and Dorman, and Gabe Norse just seems to have settled into this race quite nicely now. Whether there was just a little bit of, say, race rusty, but didn't look as sharp in the opening laps, but now has really got race rhythm going, and that, of course, is key to anything. And he's going to, and then Scott Bugner goes into the wall, runs wide out of the turn, and thankfully Norse was not collected.
That is thankful. What a shame for Bugner. Some similarities there to, I don't know why I immediately thought of this, but 2021 Jeddah for Max Verstappen there, the qualifying lap to beat all qualifying laps until it was a push out too wide there, ends up pointing around in the wrong direction in the barrier. Not for qualifying this time around, but still, what a shame to see Bugner putting a bit of a blight on otherwise impeccable performance this race weekend. Gabriel Norse is the driver in P3 though. Over the rear wing we can see Andy Dorman hunting him down, having a look down the inside there. Nowhere for him to go, but following in that slipstream very closely indeed.
Isn't he just really? Yeah, that's fired him up no end, isn't it? And here we go, side by side, the pair of them. Dorman would love to get his first podium of the evening. Those of you that like your stats, well, they're really door-handing a little bit there. And Andy Dorman just trying to squeeze through, which he does. Dorman up into third place, hasn't had the podium. And we've lost, that's Jack Smith we've lost.
That is indeed Jack Smith pointing the wrong direction. Not sure if those are coming together there, whether that was just of his own volition. Either way, race leader now out of the count and out of the top 10. Gibson now has a much easier ride for the time being, unless Dorman and Norse close up with one less competitor to get through, which I think could be the case here. We've still got 11 minutes to go, and this becomes a 3-car battle for the lead in a few corners, I suspect.
Yeah, I think you're probably right. So Oliver Gibson maybe wasn't expecting that to happen. What was it we said about the two brothers having contact? That will have to be reviewed. I might have to watch that one back. So apologies to the brothers if that was the case. As again, a little bit of a tap, innocuous. Gabe doesn't mean it, but sometimes you just end up giving one, and that will, wind up with a look by Ian Danaher and Rich Hayden on. Can't remember what morning you do it. Is it Thursday morning do it, or tomorrow morning? Probably Thursday morning that all the reports go through and both of them review it. And I make the point again, if you're joining us on VRRC for the first time, we have real world clerking in this. So Ian Danaher joined us as the official clerk for the Geoff Page Engineering Super Classic Formula Ford 1600 Championship, to give it its snappy title. Carried on with us into our touring car series, and he's happy to help, which is great. And it gives not everyone is going to agree with every clerk of the course's decision, but to my mind it just adds a little bit of gravitas to those decisions and those views that are taken by our clerking team to make sure that everything is fair.
Yeah, I think it's one of the big kind of barriers to entry for sim racing, isn't it? Where people feel like, oh, it's not serious racing. People aren't going to, race fairly or properly, or people are just going to smash into each other and hit the reset button. Absolutely not the case in so many of the sim racing leagues. Nonetheless, VRRC in particular, as you say, some proper stewarding, proper time spent on making sure that the racing is fair and equitable and everyone's giving the right chances, which is great to see. And it's why we do have so many people continuously coming back, which is, I think, a very good sign, isn't it? So top work for all the work that goes on there behind the scenes, all the organisation that goes into this championship. Is one of the best put together championships that I've certainly seen in the virtual world of racing. So top plaudits to everyone for that one. As we go on board with Andy Dorman, Norse for company, and Gibson are just up in front. Our podium looking set for a bit of a battle before they have a chat with us in about 10 minutes time.
Yeah, I was going to say they'll be looking forward to the podium chats if they can get them. Ollie Atkins in fourth is going to score well this evening. Very possibly get him up into, I was going to say he's already in the top 10 of the championship. He's probably going to outscore Thomas Potter in this one, so might look at getting up into, he's ninth already. Alex Forster's the driver, his next target in terms of championship points. And then Scott Bugner, but Scott scored well in the first two races. So there might be some changes around in the table, and we'll come to all that at the end of the evening as they get ready to go for a Brazilian next week down at Interlagos. Here is the battle between Andy Carroll, who rides the curbs there. Does it throw the car off? No, he collects it up very well indeed, does Andy Carroll. Chasing Alex Forster. Alex scoring well. Kenny Press doing well here as well. Kenny in ninth place from Thomas Potter. Now, the Kenny Press story here, he hasn't done that many meetings so far this year. Yes, he has. He's missed a couple of races, basically. Missed race 2 at Bathurst and race 3, I think, at Nurburgring. So, Kenny, against the odds here, has got himself up into the top 10 on race 3. So that is a potential for driver of the round. We need to look at that. And meanwhile, Andy Dorman's got the lead while I was looking at my papers.
Yeah, so Gibson are down in P2 now. Just as I say, I think this battle for the race lead was certainly going to hot up towards the end, and Dorman works his way on through. A bit of a unexpected turn of events after the DK Power Squad effectively halved in its numbers a couple of laps ago. I don't think Gibson's going to let this one go quite so easily, though, which is what we like to see, that fighting spirit continuing on. Norse laying in waiting in the background there, potentially allowing the top two to squabble, settle their differences, and maybe settle the race for him by just waiting behind in P3 potentially. That seems to be a fairly sensible play if that's what he is going for. But importantly for these three, they've also built up a pretty nice gap down to Ollie Atkins in P4 at this point. Ollie's doing a great job and enjoying his running alongside Scott Bugner, but he's just a couple of seconds down on the top three, which means they can afford to have a bit of a battle and put on a bit of a show for us before the end of the race. We go on board with Andy Carroll, who was obviously podium sitter in race 2. Hasn't quite had the same fortunes here in race 3, of course. There's no change round in order from race 2. There's a bit of contact between the two there, and we see that Carroll kind of wiggles his way through the left-hander there, and Alex Forster nearly loses the back of the car as he collides with the wall there. Does manage to collect the car, both of them in fact managing to still continue on, but it could have been a lot worse if those two weren't so on point with their car control. So now we go side by side, a bit of a drag race between these two fast Audis down the start-finish straight here, to where we see Carroll going around the outside, Forster on the inside, just keeping the nose in there and maybe compromising himself on corner exit there, as we see Carroll now up into P7, settling the move for the time being, bringing Kenny Press in on the mix as well potentially, but Forster not relenting at all, has been fighting from a turn 1 on this lap and is still very much on the scene. It goes single file just behind Carroll for the time being, but soon changes that to go side by side once more. It becomes a drag race up the hill, and it becomes a question of who is the inside for the next corner. Well, that's going to be Carroll this time round, but that is quickly going to change, and I think this battle will be very dynamic right up until the very end of the race.
I think you're absolutely right. What a stunning 3 races we've had. Some misdemeanors from a couple of people, and some guys just running out of luck just a little bit, which has been a great pity, but it's racing, as they say up north. It's racing, isn't it? So Gabe Norse in third. I still wouldn't bet against Gabe, as you were saying earlier on, to get this one, because it could still go pear-shaped with Ollie Gibson if he sticks a nose in at the wrong moment here. Could well slow himself up with Andy Dorman, the race leader. 5 minutes 13 to go. Ollie Atkins actually not that far behind either, really, 2.4. So with 5 minutes left on the clock, quarter of the race still to go, Ollie Atkins could potentially get himself up onto another podium. But those of you that like your stats, as I do, just take stock of the fact that we've had two races and two completely different podiums so far. That is the state of VRRC racing at the moment. It really is ultra competitive, and you can always back it up with the stat. That is not fake news.
Which is a refreshing change in today's world, isn't it? But it is, as you say, it's really nice as well that we get the unpredictability from our point of view in the comms box. You know, there's so many, you know, series, championships, races, whatever, where you'll see a certain set of names and you'll just think, right, well, we know how this is going to shape up. How do we make this interesting? We don't need to put in that work in the VRRC because the drivers do the work for us. It is always interesting. It seems to be different each time that I lay eyes upon it, which is just what we want to see. And I think, Rich, as well, you're tempting me with those northern accents. I'm going to break out my native Scouse if you're not careful. I think.
What, like Paul O'Neill? Can you do squeaky Scouse like Owie does with me?
Hey, no! Oh dear! You've kicked me off now. It's like a natural kind of instinctive. It just starts. I can't stop it. No, it's maybe for that fun race that we mentioned later on, you might have to revert to your Liverpool correspondent. Either way, Scott Bugner having a bit of a foray into the grass there, manages to collect the car, still in P4, has lost some time though, and that means that Atkins and Piercy are through. So Atkins back up into P4. They have lost some time compared to the leading trio in this one, but should still be on for some decent points either way. And it's great to see that we got a set of 3 racing for the podium, and we got a set of 3 just behind them as well. So if you want to say that it's multi-class racing, obviously they're all in pretty much the same car, but you know, everyone's fighting like it is for the race lead, which is what we'd like to see. With just 3 minutes left to go of this race weekend, Atkins leads that trio. We go down to Kenny Presto, who's having a great battle with Alex Forster. Meanwhile, Gibson is under pressure from Norse, trying to close down on Dorman, but might just have to settle his differences with Gabriel Norse just for the time being, as Ollie Atkins is under pressure once more from Bugner and Piercy. This is not going to relieve this pressure at all until the very end of this race. 3 minutes to go, and no rest for the wicked here, as Oliver Atkins impressed us already earlier on, and is looking to do so once again. Might not be for another race win as things stand, but will still be for a really good haul of points. And as I was saying to him in that post-race interview, I think we should be seeing more of Ollie Atkins in this race as Bugner collides with the wall. That upsets the car big time at high speeds. He tries his best to collect it. He just about does collect it actually in the background there and gets it pointing in the right direction. That promotes Piercy up into P5. What a drive this has been for Lee Piercy so many times this race weekend. He's put on so many overtakes and is going to be rewarded with a really good haul of points.
Yeah. And now Steve Rightly goes back to P2 because we've got Gabe Norse with his nose in front. P2 gets it done. He's up ahead of Ollie Gibson. It's Andy Dorman, the race leader, and Gabe Norse with 2 minutes and 4 on the clock makes it up into second position. Gibson down to third. What can Norse do about Andy Dorman? I know, Reeve, you and I have been messaging and thinking about driver of the round. I think person of the round might be Steve because he's done such a great job. I can tell you, directing a race is very, very difficult. This guy does a superb job of following the relevant action. You know, if we're talking about something or want to look at it, he'll go back, but also if he spots something, he's actually doing the work of probably 3 people in terms of an ITV production. I posted on LinkedIn, actually. There's a lovely video from Cloudbase. If you find me on LinkedIn, there's a great video of Cloudbase which will show you how much facility we have on an ITV weekend. Have a look at that and then think about the fact that Steve here is giving you all the action, exactly the right cut at the right time, superbly entertaining us. So maybe honorary person of the round for him. But it's Dorman out front, Gabe North second, Oliver Gibson in third place, and Scott Bugner back in the mix. Scott Bugner, that's that R word, isn't it? Resilience again. He's had plenty of visits into the wall, more visits into the wall than a Pink Floyd fan in the 80s, to be perfectly honest. But he's made it back up into 8th position, chasing Alex Forster. 48 seconds to go on the clock. Dorman, Norse and Gibson, and there is pretty much action absolutely everywhere to watch.
There absolutely is, and that action everywhere is just why it's such a tricky job for Steve this evening. So thank you, drivers, for making Steve's job quite so difficult, because it means that it's a fantastic race. But as you mentioned, Rich, that's a racing director's job is so tricky, and it is a blessing when you've got a good one as a commentator, because it makes your job easier as well. And I am often in awe as to what racing directors have to do, because they're thinking about, you know, camera points and so many things they need to think about. Just as these drivers are having to think about so many things around them as well. Piercy up into P4. A good race gets even better for him as Atkins is squabbling with Andy Carroll for P5. Or Andy Carroll, who maybe, oh dear, big contact there. I think that was a bit of almost a concertina effect there. there as into the gravel goes Atkins. Piercy is down the order, as is Atkins, as we say. What a shame there, an otherwise fantastic race coming to a bit of an end for those guys.
Yeah, absolutely shame for them. And well, is that going to change our decision on DOTR? Could be a problem, because we don't know if there's going to be a judicial without it, and obviously we can't push Steve to doing replays as well, particularly as we're on the last lap of the race. It's Dorman still out front, Gabe Norse in second, and just dropping away a little bit now is Oliver Gibson, but still on for a podium and running well into the closing stages of this one, coming down into turns 9 and 10, so coming out of 9 at the moment, heading down towards turn 10, and it's Dorman and Norse. Norse not close enough here. I know he'd want the win. He's going to be very happy to get another podium, and significantly good points haul here over Jack Smith, Reeve.
Yeah, absolutely. He can be very pleased with this one as Dorman navigates his way towards the checkered flag. Then he wins this one here with a fantastic start from P9. It is Andy Dorman taking the race victory. Norse brings it home in second, then followed by Gibson. That completes your podium. The DK Power Squad still represented on the podium. And we have a quintet of cars navigating their way down the start-finish straight. It's Andy Carroll, Scott Bugner, Kenny Press, and Alex Forster there, followed by Thomas Potter as well. We go on board with Rich Hayden. Big thank you to all the work behind the scenes that Rich puts in, obviously, for holding the VRRC ship together. He hasn't been quite rewarded this time out in the VRRC with some good results. In the end, it's 15th that we go on board with him for, but a big thank you to Rich regardless. And we know he's a very fine racing driver. I've actually competed with him in the GT World Challenge series a couple of years ago now, when I jumped in as reserve there. So everyone is navigating their way back to the pits for one final time at this race weekend here at Watkins Glen. We're not quite done yet though, are we, Rich? Because we're now going to have an opportunity to chat with some of our drivers after that final race.
Yeah, and we look forward to catching up with our driver of the round, hopefully, if we can all agree on a decision as well, which I think we have. Steve seems okay. We'll get Reeves' rubber stamp on that one in the chat as well, after these words from our very valued partners.
I've had a lot of challenges in my life, and Helen was always there, supporting me through everything. Today, we're facing a new challenge. Helen has been diagnosed with a terrible disease. Dementia is nothing less than a worldwide epidemic. Formula One moves fast. By contrast, medical research can be painfully slow. We want to bring some of our Formula One technology into the laboratories. Our charity, Race Against Dementia, will help to accelerate the pace of dementia research. Let's beat dementia together.
And a really important message there, of course, but we're now going to have an opportunity to hear from some of our drivers. So one last time this evening, race 3, another absolute cracker to round out what has been a great series of races for this race weekend. So Oliver Gibson, once again, we get a chance to chat with you. It's not quite for a race victory, but it certainly was action-packed, wasn't it, Oliver? So you've got to at least be somewhat happy with a P3.
Yeah, obviously nice to get a podium, good points as well, but yeah, I don't really know what happened, to be honest. I thought maybe I'd be able to carry the pace I had from race 2 into race 3, but clearly not. I don't know whether I ran out of talent or tyres. I can't quite work it out. But no, I mean, it was a good race. I appreciate Gabriel trying to help me catch Andy, but obviously, clearly I didn't have the pace. So no, it was a good race. Just a little bit disappointing, I think, for me. But yeah, no, good points, and we'll just keep going and see what happens in the next week.
Yeah, absolutely. Next week should be a very interesting one indeed. You head out to Brazil, and more on that in a moment. I'm sure it was more tyres than talent. You know, you got plenty of talent, Ollie. So I doubt it was that. It was just, I think we mentioned already. It's quite a difficult balance between the BMW and the Audi. The Audis have been really strong this evening, so you're potentially already on the back foot with that. You were perhaps aided somewhat by having a teammate alongside you. That wasn't quite to be though in the end. Do you know what happened with your brother in that race? We didn't quite catch it from our point of view. Do you know what happened?
Yeah, he just his force feedback died as he went into the chicane. So it's a bit bumpy in the BMW, and obviously there's a lot of inputs that you have to do through the chicane. And obviously without the force feedback, it's pretty hard. So I thought it was a technical thing from when I saw it. So
now I feel very bad about making the BMW reliability jokes because they might have accidentally come true.
No, they're great cars.
I'll take the blame for that one. I will take the blame for that one. You can add that to the commentator's curse list. So, moving on then to next week. Are you looking forward to a bit of running at Interlagos?
Yeah, I love that track. So I've never driven it in these or sort of with these less downforce cars. I'm usually used to that, like F1E, LMP sort of thing. So it will be interesting. So.
Yeah, that was going to be one of my next questions, is that it's certainly not a familiar sight these days for at least modern viewers of Formula 1 or modern racing enthusiasts to see such classics making their way around the undulations of Interlagos. But have you already got maybe the odd practice lap or two in? What's your experience with that track looking like? Have you been there in the past in many leagues?
Yeah, just mainly F1 and just high downforce stuff. So it would be really interesting for me anyway, just to see what these sort of cars are like. And I'm not looking forward to the massive straight because those Audis are going to be quick. They'll be really quick down there. So I know it should make for some good racing. I think every time we've gone, it's always been a good track. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Just need to get some practice in. I think that's partly where some of the pace I'm missing is. I think a lot of people do way more laps than me, but it's my last week of uni, so I've got loads of time now for next week. So.
I was going to say not before your exam, surely. They must at least.
No.
If not come first, at least are on level pegging with the VRRC running. What are you studying then, Ollie?
I'm on foundation engineering. So once I get through this year, I'm on to motorsport engineering.
Oh, so, fabulous! That will be I think that is very apt, and I'm sure you will do very well. So best luck in your studies then in that case, and hope all goes well.
Cheers, thank you.
Great to hear from Ollie there. So we're going to move on to our driver in P2 after that podium, which we thought might have been settled at the start of race 3. In the end, it wasn't. And it's great to chat with you once again. Gabriel Norris, how are you doing with another podium this evening?
Yeah, that race went quite well. I just kind of managed to hold on at the end, just on the back of Ollie, and then managed to get past him, which was quite decent.
It was indeed. We saw you enjoying some battles towards the end of race 2 as well, and obviously no reverse grid heading into race 3, so we knew it was going to continue on. But were you expecting things to go quite that well from your point of view?
From the start of race 3, I thought that the best I could really do was second, because Jack and Ollie seemed like they were just going to command the front. But then when Jack spun out, I think I heard it was a technical issue. From when he spun out, that kind of made me realise that I could kind of get second or first even, and I mean Andy proved that I could have got first, so yeah.
Well, I'm liking your thinking there. You're not quite comfortable with second position. I think it does mean that we are going to be in for a great championship fight involving yourself, if that's your mindset, settling for nothing less than P1. Obviously, they will be in the upcoming rounds that we are going to have over the second half and the final few races of this season. Next one up is going to be Interlagos. Are you looking forward to the Brazilian track?
Yeah, I've always liked it when I've driven it on other games, so hopefully it should be quite fun in the BMW and hopefully a bit more balanced than this one, as I felt kind of the Audi was quite quick around Watkins.
Yeah, it did look to be. It was interesting to hear that some of the drivers are actually talking about just how it wasn't just the straight line speed, as we have seen, you know, at the likes of, say, Bathurst, where you got that massive long Comrod straight. It was a mix of things. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how things develop later on into the season. And as you mentioned, Jack Smith, the technical issues there, that we're blaming them on me now. I made some jokes about BMW reliability, and here we are. So we can blame that on me. If you have any issues like that with your rig throughout the rest of the season, even if I'm not here, not commentating, it's my fault. So you can take that one with you, Gabriel. Well, congratulations on another podium this evening, and we look forward to chatting with you once again.
Yeah, thank you.
So then, that's the first couple of podium spots covered. Then we have just one driver left to chat with this evening, Mr. Andy Dorman. Lovely to speak to you once more. How are you doing this evening?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. It's been quite eventful tonight, hasn't it?
It certainly has, and perhaps the most important event for yourself is to come away with race 3 here in race 3. So you pleased with how that went?
Yeah, I'm really pleased with that. Towards the start, I was like, I should be able to sort of keep with them, but I didn't expect to be able to get past them.
No, the pace looked really strong here. As we've just chatted with a couple of the other drivers there. I think at the start, at least from my point of view, I was thinking we're going to have a wall of DK Power Racing at the front of this race because of how well the BMW gets off the line. Those two drivers are obviously by no means slow, but it seems to be by just getting your head down, Andy. You've done very well in the running here. So was this something that you came into this race weekend expecting?
I knew in practice I was reasonably quick. I don't know where I ended up just before tonight. But yeah, just in practice before we started, I was sort of racing against Jack for fastest lap. So we're only a tenth or so quicker, I think.
It was great to see that you're looking pretty close in the championship standings overall so far as we head into this round, and that looks like it's going to continue on. Next couple of races, we've got Interlagos, Mugello, and then Ricardo, Tormo as well. You've picked the Audi, whereas the other protagonists have gone for the E36 3 Series. Are you confident with that choice that it's going to do you well over the next coming rounds?
It seems to be doing all right so far.
It certainly does.
The main reason I picked it is because it's a little bit more stable.
I think that's a very fair assessment, isn't it? You know, you see the typical old BMW thing of they do like to get a bit of a swapper on sometimes, whereas I think these Audis seem to be the slightly more stable choice that a few drivers, as you say, including yourself, seem to be pretty pleased with.
Yeah, it seems to be going all right. It's just you sacrifice a little bit of lap time, but if you can keep it straight and on the track, you save so much more time.
That's a good way of thinking about it, actually, is perhaps, you know, it hasn't quite got the same level of peak, but over... It's not just 20 minutes, is it? It's 3 times 20 minutes that you got to think about as a driver, because even in the world of sim racing, you do get fatigue that sets in. You know, it is effectively an hour. As we get into the summer months as well here in the UK, it's going to get warm and everyone's in sim racing rooms, so that kind of driver fatigue does set in. And if you've got a more stable car, perhaps, would you say that can be a big benefit?
Yeah, I think it certainly seems to be helping. And then when we get a little bit of door knocks and things like that, you don't get turned around so easy in the Audi.
Okay, I suppose as well it might be slightly easier to catch as well. If you can just plant your foot in that front wheel drive nature, maybe that being a bit of a benefit as well.
Oh, it makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
Tried doing it with the BMW, and once it's gone, it's just like, right, we'll wait here for it to stop, and then we can set off again.
Sounds familiar.
Yeah, I think that's something that all BMW drivers can resonate with in the world of sim racing. Perhaps some of us have enjoyed this evening, and maybe in the real world as well, as I say, particularly over the icy months. But Interlagos is our next round, Andy. You're looking forward to that one, hoping to continue on your race winning success?
I'm hoping to. I'm not going to get much practice in this week though, so we'll have to get a few laps in tonight and tomorrow, I think.
I like you. You're thinking about the action next week, and then that just shows the dedication there, doesn't it? Congratulations, Andy, on your race win this evening. So the championship fight does continue on. It's going to look very interesting as we head into the second half of the season. So big congratulations for that one, Andy.
Yep, thanks a lot.
Great to hear from our podium sitting drivers from race 3 then. I do believe that we now get to chat with our driver of the round, Lee Piercy. Lee, how are you doing this evening?
Very good, thank you very much. Yeah, very good, thank you.
Yeah, great to hear from you. You have one drive of the round this evening, and I think it all comes down to your really impressive performances in working your way up on through the pack here at Watkins Glen. Is this a track that you're happy with, one that you're looking forward to some success at, and are you pleased with how things went?
It's not a track. I've only ever done the track once before, and to be fair, I've been really struggling with these cars. This championship, I just can't get on with them. So, a few days ago, I sort of made a conscious effort to do a sort of couple of hours testing, and like you would in the real world, actually sort of went through little bits and actually got a bit more comfortable with the cars, and hopefully I've learned how to drive them a bit better now. So, we didn't. Obviously the Audis are very quick in places around here, but over race pace, we seem to be hunting them down and causing them grief. But they're certainly fast in a straight line, which makes it very difficult. But yeah, it was good fun. Both race 2 and race 3. Unfortunately, race 1 I got taken out on the first lap, so that was a bit lonely. But the race 2 and 3 was great fun. Proper old school super touring racing, door banging and mirrors, and yeah, it was good. Really enjoyed it.
That's what we like to hear. I think you worded it perfectly there. Hunting them down seems to be exactly what you were doing. It's, those drives through the field, I think were pretty much unrivaled. How did you kind of approach those? Were you setting quali laps and going for moves down the inside, or were you just kind of letting the overtakes kind of do the work for you? Were you waiting for instance up in front? Were you just settling into a rhythm? How were you approaching it?
It seems there's certain places that I worked out, sort of especially the chicane at the end of the long straight, we seem to have the advantage on most of the Audis there. So sort of setting up moves coming out of there and just trying to sit with them the rest of the lap. But yeah, so even to be fair, I was setting fastest lap each time, and it was getting quicker and quicker. And so it was just taking the moves as and when they come, and trying not to getting bogged down battling too much with people. Was able to then come through the pack. Unfortunately, at one point I thought, can I get on the back of the front 3 here? But it wasn't quite to be.
It wasn't, but what a story that would have been. You already did an impressive enough job to end up where you were in that final race. And speaking of where people ended up, at the risk of finding my mic immediately cut off and me booted out of the comms box, do you know what happened to your teammate at all this race weekend? He seemed to have a few difficulties.
I think he's just driving the car the same way I've been driving the car for the last 4 weeks, and I'm not going to comment because we've both been absolutely useless. I think is the only way to describe it. I think apart from my mate Rob, I think we're the worst 2 BMWs up every round so far. But maybe he's got to do some more practice like I did. So. But yeah, I'm not going to drag him down. He's doing all right. They're not easy to drive, these cars. I think the Audi would have been the easier option.
They certainly don't look the easiest to drive, and I like use of the word so far, because if I ever have to do a reserve round once again, I think we'll find that there will be a new worst BMW in the field, and I can tell you who it will be. It'll be myself. But great that you have some insight for us. Are you looking forward to Interlagos next week?
Yes, yeah, it's an old school circuit that I've watched Formula One there since I was a wee boy. So yeah, we've not done. I think we've done a few races there. I haven't done millions of laps, but I know where it goes. So be interesting to see. I think like what Ollie was saying, I'm not looking forward to the long straights again with these Audis. They've got a few mile an hour on us. But yeah, it's interesting. Some tracks you think the Audi's going to be better than the BMWs, and then it's the other way around, and then it's the other way around with some. So we'll get some practice in, and hopefully I can drive that circuit as well as I did this one, and might have another chat next week.
Yeah, that'll be lovely. I think we'd all enjoy that. So hopefully it does go well for you, Lee. You are our driver of the round, so big congratulations for your efforts this one. No problem at all. That brings an end to our driver interviews then for the round here at Watkins Glen. Always good to hear from our drivers in all contexts. And now we move on to next week's action, don't we, Rich?
We do, yeah, looking forward to it. We've got a week to unwind, and then we sort of metaphorically unwind as well, because we've been going clockwise everywhere, but now we're going anti-clockwise at Interlagos, which we are looking forward to. Reeve, thanks for helping out, mate, tonight. Really super job over and above the Call of Duty. And it's actually nice to listen to someone else doing the interview. I've been trying to persuade Becky to do interviews, but now we've set a precedent. She'll have to do it at one of the other rounds. But thanks ever so much for that. Mentions in dispatches as well for driver of the round. We were thinking about let me see. Andy Carroll, who managed to get up into the top 10 in race 2 from 11th, well inside. And also Kenny Press has had a good one as well. So they're the other drivers that we were thinking about. But congratulations to Lee Piercy on taking that, very well deserved. But thank you, Reeve. Thank you, Steve. Another top job. Thanks in advance to Ian Danaher for clerking everything. I'm going to go and get a lemsip and a beer. I'm not sure which order. But we look forward to your company again next week. So thank you, everybody. Rich, Hayden and all the team, thanks for watching. As I always say, be nice to everybody. And Reeve, catch up with you in a couple of weeks. Very best of luck at the Nurburgring. Have a great time. And we'll see you all soon. Bye for now.
Between the two of them, the inside of Coates, Parker gets too heavily involved, and that's Whitehead and Coates.